fully possible that it is just the menu that's as loud as it is. But we'll find out. Hi, hello, welcome. It's Wednesday. I haven't streamed this week. That's fine. Sometimes you just don't. It's been a fucking week, my dudes. A lot happening. Mostly good, but just a lot. And sometimes you just need less things to happen, you know? But that's okay. We finished Silent Hill over the weekend, and that was so good. Not the game, but finishing it and being done with it. That was really good. Hi, Emmy. Yeah, we finished Silent Hill this weekend, and it was great to be done with it. We're done with it. We don't have the Silent Hill on stream anymore. And that's really exciting. Emmy, I hope you, of all people, appreciate stream title. Thought of you when I was launching this game. For reasons. But yeah, we're gonna play the Excavation of Hob's Barrow today. I don't know much about it. I got it in a Humble Bundle. I think the same time that I got Callisto Protocol, and I was like, I'm actually excited about this game, and I've like managed to like not hear a lot about it, because, you know, I do that thing that I like to do, where I like to go into a game generally as blind as possible. And I've managed to do this, and like I said, I got this around the same time that I got Callisto Protocol. I was like, let's play the bad game first, so that I enjoy the good game later. And oh boy, I'm excited to be playing. I hope you're doing well. I hope things are going good. I, almost didn't stream today. I wasn't sure how much energy I was gonna have, because work was a lot today. And it was fine. It was just a lot, and there was a whole bunch of apartment nonsense that was going on that was also a lot, and, yeah. Preemptive apologies, I do have my phone, like, the sound on, but that's just because I'm waiting for my package, because I purchased new headphones today, and apparently they shipped out today, and are supposed to be arriving today! But, you know, it's an expensive package, and I want to make sure that I get that. So, if we hear noises from my phone, that is why. Yeah. Well, I'll be able to let you know if it's worth it. The game, that is. Yeah, I'm excited about this. And I don't want to, like, dick around too much more, because I'm, like, excited to play. Look at this dang— hold on, let me move my stupid face out of the way. Look at how pretty! Look at how pretty this, this main menu is. I'm really excited, about this here dang video game. Once it launches, do let me know, like, how the sound is, because it looks— OBS is telling me that it's loud. Or it's at least at where I usually have it, but it just sounds like, for me, it sounds quieter than I usually have a video game. But yeah, just let me know what is up. Are we playing immediately? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought it was a cutscene. My bad. Look at this fashionable lady, though. I can't click and hold. Understand. Can I? It's all clicking. Understood.
Ah, Miss Bateman. Welcome back to Kayshurr's house. It's been quite some time.
It gives me the vibe of, oh god, what were those games?
Terrible weather this evening, is it not? Nurse
Dreadful.
Bateman has had enough of me smoking inside. Makes her cough, you see.
The letter? Not the letter.
Will it?
Not the letter. Hold up. It's gonna bother me if I don't.
You mustn't be interested in me nattering on.
I'll look it up later. There's a—
Give my regards to your father.
set of games that this reminds me of, and I can't remember what they are. That's okay. I mean, it's pixel art. Reminds you of a lot of video games.
You look pale, Miss Bateman. Do head inside.
I
You'll
would
catch your
love
death
to,
out here.
sir. Let's go! Reminds you of Loretta a bit. Oh! Oh my god, what are those games? We'll just look it up.
Dearest Mother, I hope this letter will reach you. I have spent these past years in torment, trying to piece together what remains of fractured memories. What I am about to recount to you will seem beyond comprehension, but I beg for your patience.
Chip.
I will endeavour to explain the events that led me to Kayshurr's house that night. As far as I can recall, this whole wretched story started with the receipt of a letter from a Mr. Leonard Shoulder.
Very close to this lady's face. Also, the last door is the game.
The letter brought me to the isolated village of Bewley, deep in the moors. No station master in sight. I hope the village isn't too far away. I can't recall our exact meeting place. Mr. Shoulder mentioned it in his letter.
Close-up pixel eyes are kind of a lot. Left click to walk, right click to examine. Okay. Understood. I'll probably forget like half of those, but that's
If
okay.
I take the sign, how would the trains know where to stop?
Well, I mean, it's a train station.
Hello there. The post looks unattended. Hello there. Bewley. I have great expectations for this, Barrow. I ought to read Mr. Shoulder's letter again. I can't recall the name of our meeting place.
Okay. Is this the letter? Dear Miss Bateman, I write this letter in the hope of piquing your curiosity. Read about your expertise in barrows, and if I understand correctly, you're writing a book on them and the treasures they contain. I live in the village of Bewley, where a most special barrow can be found on the outskirts. It is rectangular in form and is certainly tall enough to stand up in. The place is steeped in local legend, and there is rumor of secrets to be found deep within. I am sorry that I am covering up some of the words. Is it better if I'm down here, actually? Only just. I'll live up here. It's fine. Hope you'll not misunderstand me and find this letter intrusive. If you wish to visit Bewley and excavate the barrow, I will be pleased to be your guide. Please send your response to the Plough and Furrow Inn, Bewley. I shall await your letter. Yours respectfully, Mr. Leonard Shoulder. What a name. Who's this? Dear Miss Bateman, marvelous news. I shall meet you at 8 o'clock in the evening on the 14th of this month at the Plough and Furrow Inn, Bewley. He and his fine rooms, which you will find adequate for your short stay. When we meet, I shall tell you more of the circumstances surrounding the site, which is referred to locally as Hob's Barrow. It is not located on my own land, but we will have no issue gaining permission to excavate. I wish you a safe journey.
I must make my way to the Plough and Furrow Inn.
Correct. Who's this lady?
Excuse me?
Yes?
Plough and Furrow Inn?
I'm looking for the Plough and Furrow Inn. Do you know where I can find it?
Ah, young lady. Leave the station and follow the dry stone wall for around half a mile. You'll come to Bewley. Go straight ahead and you'll find the market square. The inn is t'other side at square.
Thank you very much.
Tell me about Bewley.
What can you tell me about Bewley?
Well, it used to be a thriving village. Not so much now. I don't spend much time there these days.
Are you
That's
local?
just the way.
Ah, yes, a local I am. But I don't live in the village.
Where are you travelling to today?
That would be none of your business, young lady.
Quite. Apologies. I wish you a
All right,
pleasant
ma'am.
journey. I can't think of anything else to talk about right now.
Okay, well, can we just look at her?
I swear she was not standing there a moment ago.
I mean, she wasn't. She walked up, ma'am.
My mother always told me not to walk on railway tracks. The
Yeah, but-
tracks look quite untarnished. I don't think many trains come through here.
Alright, well,
What brings you to Bewley?
that's none of your
I beg your
business.
What brings you to Bewley, miss?
I mean, I'll tell her the truth.
I'm
Whatever.
here to visit a local landmark, Hobbs Barrow.
Hobbs Barrow? Well, I can't say I've heard of it. For what reason?
I wish to excavate it.
Grave robber, are you?
Not at all.
Fuck
I
you.
merely have an interest in
Sorry.
antiquities.
Not much to be found in Bewley, if you ask me.
I
You're better
didn't.
off waiting for the next train back to the city.
I'll take my chances.
Can't say I didn't warn you.
Yeah, okay, weirdo.
That was odd.
Damn. Really said, let me just be as obnoxious as possible. And then was as obnoxious as possible. Crow! But you were supposed to look at it, ma'am.
The old woman told me to go straight ahead to get to the inn. I'll have
Okay.
time to explore tomorrow.
I mean, I wanted to look around, but whatever you say.
Beating raw metal into a fine object is an admirable skill. The anvil looks heavy.
As anvils
This
do.
appears to be the forge of a local blacksmith. The blacksmith looks closed. The
Okay.
bucket is rusty and full of holes. The bucket has seen better days.
I like that it's like fully
This
voice
must
acted.
belong
I
to
wasn't
someone. I should
I
leave
wasn't
it alone.
expecting that.
Perhaps this belongs to a merchant.
Kinda rad though.
The
This...
sign is in a shabby state, but the shop appears to be a cobbler's.
Alright, so
I
not
don't wish
the
to
place that we're
disturb the
looking at.
locals. A local dwelling. The cobbler's is closed.
Okay.
Quite an ornate construction. This was created with pride and care.
I
The
know her
door has
last
been
name is
boarded up.
Bateman, but do we
The
know her
building
first
looks
name?
like a
Did I miss
ruin.
it?
The building is in a dilapidated state.
You should break in. Plow and furrow! Before I look
Quite
at
a
that,
fine building indeed. I don't wish to disturb the locals.
doesn't want to disturb the locals, and I don't understand
The plough and furrow.
what
I
we
have
don't
a bit
get
of
about
time
that.
before Mr. Shoulder arrives. I should inquire about a room.
Hello there. What's the young lady doing out alone in this sodding weather?
Get out of the way, sir. You're drunk. I mean, I could ask him the same thing. I'm heading to the plow and furrow.
I'm heading to the plough and furrow.
Bloody good pub, that.
I'm not
It
gonna be a
has the
complete dick
finest
right off
ales
the
in the whole
bat.
county. Oh, I'll take you there if you like.
I believe we are standing directly in front of it.
Oh, so we are.
Sir, you need to go home.
Yes.
Give us a kiss now, won't you?
Punch him! No, thank you. No, we're
How
slapping.
dare you?
Wench!
That's fine. Get out of here.
What a buffoon.
I just got an achievement called The Slap. He deserved it. And facts.
I should speak to the innkeeper about a room.
Also, does anyone want to go after that drunk man to make sure he, like, doesn't
It's a
die?
crudely painted scene that appears to be of a biblical nature. I don't want to take the painting with me.
Take the painting with you, ma'am.
Good day, sir.
Bother everyone in here.
A fine exemplar of inebriation.
Well, let's talk to the innkeeper.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, lass. How can I help you?
A
I'm
room?
in need of a room for the night.
Aye, we aren't short of those. One night, is it?
I shall need at least 2 nights, maybe more.
Aye, 'tis not a problem. 3 shilling per night. That includes your dinner and tea.
A fair price.
I'll need that payment up front for the 2 nights.
This is
go.
payment for the room.
Thank you. Can I ask for your name, lass?
Thomasina Bateman.
And
Thomasina?
will Mr. Bateman be staying with us tonight?
No, I am not wed. My assistant is arriving in Bewley tomorrow.
Your
What a name.
assistant, you say? Will you
Right?
be
I like
needing
that. I
another
like
room?
that name.
Please.
I'll keep a room spare. It's not quite as nice as yours, I'm afraid.
Not a problem, sir. I'm sure it will be adequate. Kenneth is a man of inexpensive taste.
Here's your key.
Alright,
Just
let's
go
go.
through the door to the right of the bar, then up the stairs. Room number 2.
Thank you.
Can I help you with your luggage?
No, thank you, sir. I can manage. I should
What a
go
nice
upstairs
gentleman.
and freshen up before Mr. Shoulder arrives.
Yeah, but before we do that,
Good
can I,
afternoon,
talk to
sir.
everyone?
Note for you here.
I beg your pardon?
I said there's note for you here, lass. Be on your way.
Okay,
Charming.
sure,
A rather
whatever.
miserable-looking fellow. He's playing a board game by himself. I think it's Three Men's Morris.
Who are you?
Hello, sir.
Who?
We are
Who
in
are
the
you?
middle of a discussion here.
Sorry to interrupt.
Alright.
We are engaged in an intense discussion.
Don't talk to him then,
The
jeez.
poor thing. A majestic animal, cut down in his prime. A pixie-faced peasant boy, painted in a naive style. A colourful
We're
work
just gonna look at
depicting
everything
a
real
bashful
quick.
knight. It is signed N. Hamley. This painting shows a Rubenesque figure brushing her hair. Quite unusual to see such a sensual work in a room like this. A biblical scene of some kind. An angel is depicted looking longingly to the heavens.
We've already had 2...
The painting
Biblical
depicts
paintings?
a rocky-edged lake. A small bronze plate states the name Lake Cubilius. I do not need to use the lavatory.
Okay, but what if there's something cool in there? Consider. What if something neat
This
is
shall do
hidden in there?
nicely. Time to change into something more comfortable.
Pants? My god.
Much better.
Something tells me the locals are not gonna like this.
This may come in handy.
I mean, I'm here for it. But...
An empty bowl has been provided for washing. I don't
take
wish
it?
to carry the bowl around with me.
Oh, okay.
I've hung my dress inside. Aside
But the
from
jug of
that,
water
the wardrobe is empty.
We can take. What's this?
The wardrobe looks old, perhaps 100 years or more in age.
Jeez.
I don't wish to take it. A decorative
Well-
plate depicting a goat. A
Goat
painting
plate,
of
you
surprising
say?
quality. It portrays a rocky
Oh,
outcrop
also-
overlooking a vast moor. Perhaps a local landmark.
Rip it and rip it.
Ah, complementary matches. Useful.
Rip it, rip it.
There's only one match left, though.
Only one match.
Jammed shut. The wood must have warped over the years.
Tragic.
No
can I
doubt
look
the
at this?
mattress is stuffed with itchy straw. A sturdy-looking thing, useful to many a weary traveller. I've stored my case in there. A box
so there's-
within a box.
So nothing that we need. Let's get out of here. Let's go meet Mr. Shoulder. Bell, bell,
The
bell.
last orders bell. Saviour of many a life. I should wait here for Mr. Shoulder.
Should I? Where can I wait?
The
Can I talk to
innkeeper
him?
is a serious-looking man.
Miss Bateman, you've transformed.
I feel far more comfortable in my outdoor clothing.
You look like one of those explorers you see in the newspaper.
I guess you
Oh,
could
the
call me an
newspaper
explorer of
explorer.
sorts.
I'm Stanley. Stanley Kemp.
Hi,
Pleasure to meet you, Stanley.
And tell me, I trust your room is adequate.
Most adequate.
I like
Excellent.
Stanley. He seems cool. Can you tell me about Leonard Shoulder? Yeah, we're glad Stanley is chill. It's a good thing he's not
I'm
being
looking
a
for a man
weirdo.
named Leonard Shoulder.
I mean, I guess we do,
Aye,
we are
I
kind of
know
like
the
out in the
man.
country. It
I'm to meet
might
him
not
here
be
tonight.
that weird.
Can I get you something to drink while you wait?
Not
What?
yet, thank you.
What can you tell me about Mr.
What can
Shoulder?
you tell me about Mr. Shoulder?
Aye, he's a quiet fellow. He only comes here to check his post.
Yes, I've been corresponding with him using this address.
Have you now? You found yourself an admirer.
Not quite.
What business do you have with old Leonard then?
It's weirding me out that we have the option to keep lying to people,
Well, if you must know,
but like,
I am what some people
I feel like this is a
call
good way to get more
barrow
information,
digger.
if nothing
A
else.
what?
A barrow digger.
What in God's name is that?
Are you familiar with tumuli?
Afraid not.
Barrow is another word for tumulus, or tumuli in the plural. A profoundly interesting subject.
You've lost me.
I excavate ancient burial sites looking for relics. A barrow is traditionally a circular mound of raised earth enclosing a burial chamber.
Oh, aye. You're a grave robber.
Why does everyone
I'm
keep
no
calling
such
me
thing.
that?
Don't worry, lass. I've met all sorts
Also,
in
hi
here over
Yosh.
the years.
I can do a shrimp
I
check and
won't
hydrate and
tell
stretch.
anyone.
We just started.
I
Not
assure
much
you,
room
my
to
goal
do.
is more noble than petty grave robbery.
Thank you.
What sort of relics do you find then? Gold? Silver?
I'm
Bones?
technically hydrating.
Well, rarely gold or silver, but treasures certainly. Ancient pottery is the most common find. I've been excavating
Hello,
barrows all
welcome.
over the country. I'm documenting my findings in preparation for my book. It shall be called Vestiges of the Antiquities in Rural England.
Oh, aye. Very interesting. But what does old Leonard have to do with this?
He sent me a letter in which he told me about an unusual barrow in Bewley, a site called Hob's Barrow. I'm meeting him here this evening to find out more.
I've lived here nigh on my whole life, and I've heard nowt about a Hob's Barrow.
Okay, this is the second person that has told us that they haven't like heard about Hobbs Barrow. So either what's his fuck? Mr. Shoulder is a serial killer and we're gonna fucking die. Or the locals don't want anyone digging around there. But hi everyone, how are you doing? How's it going?
What can you tell me
I mean,
about
those are the two
Bewley?
options. I'm
Aye,
sorry.
It's a quiet place. People keep to themselves, work hard.
I look forward to exploring the village tomorrow.
There's not a lot
Look,
to
it's a
see,
tiny
lass.
village.
But St. Edmund's Church is a fine building, worth a visit.
I'll try not to talk over them. It's a tiny village, and like I'm not from here. I'm an outsider. I don't think these people trust me, and you know what? That's valid. But also,
Are
I'm
you
gonna
sure
dig
you've
up that
never heard of
barrow.
Hobbs Barrow?
Not in my life, lass, but I'll tell you something. The moors stretch further than the eyes can see once you leave this village. There's no doubt many a discovery to be made.
Mr. Shoulder said
Okay.
the barrow is well known locally, a place of legend.
I'm afraid you're going to have to speak to him about it. Why are you interested in digging around in the dirt, lass? Haven't
Dirt's
you better
cool.
things to do with your time?
I enjoy nothing more than the thrill of discovery, uncovering the past and piecing together our history. I
Discovery's an
inherited this passion
adventure.
from my father.
Oh, a barrow digger too, eh?
Indeed. He would take me with him on excavations as a child.
Does he still come with you now, on your own adventures?
I'm afraid my father's been bedbound by illness for many
Aw.
years.
Oh, I am sorry to hear that, lass.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. He is well looked after at a private hospital.
Oh, I was gonna say we're doing like a old-timey Lara Croft thing here. Then, doesn't like digging around in dirt. Man hasn't lived. It's true though. Listen, digging in the dirt, fucking
Tell me about
rad.
yourself, Mr. Kemp.
Here for
Well,
it.
I've been the proprietor of this inn for the last 16 years. I worked as a drover all over the country in my younger days. Saved up my coin and bought this place.
It's a fine inn.
Thank you. I
It's
often run short of
lovely.
ale, but my rooms are rarely full. We don't get many outsiders wanting to stay overnight here in Bewley.
Thanks for your time.
As you were.
Okay.
A lovely place to warm oneself.
I...
They are engaged in an intense discussion.
Oh, who's
A
this?
curmudgeonly-looking old fellow. Hello,
We're here
sir.
before.
Right,
Do you know a Mr. Leonard Shoulder?
You're not local. You've come on that bloody train, haven't you? Well, it's going to dogs.
Yes. Because public transit is such an abomination.
My name is
okay,
Thomasina
well,
Bateman, and you are...
None of your business, lass. Where's
Okay.
your husband?
None of your business, sir.
Ha! You're brave coming in here, all on your own.
I'm a grown woman.
I'm Cyril.
It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Cyril.
why is it that every man except the innkeeper, except Stanley, has been a weird freak?
Do you know Mr. Shoulder?
That be none of your business, lass. I don't come to your city poking around asking questions, do I? Man just wants to enjoy his ale in peace.
Yeah, whatever. What's your issue with the railway station?
I take it you are not enamored with the railway station.
Bewley's gonna be swarming with outsiders, like you. We don't want you coming here. It's as simple as that, lass.
Why
Okay.
not?
This is our town, our land.
I assure you, I am not here to cause trouble.
We'll see about that, won't we?
Can you tell me about Bewley? Or are you just gonna tell me to kick rocks?
What can you tell me about Bewley?
We're a proud community. I've lived here my
Same.
whole life. Not much here to interest folks like you.
Folks like me.
Aye.
Bye for now.
Ta-ra, lass.
Ta-ra.
Mr. Shoulder should really be here by now. I'll sit down and wait.
Where do you want to sit? You're just choosing for us. That's fair.
Where on earth is he?
Is he
What a
dead?
waste of time this is turning out to be.
Hey, is Leonard dead?
evening there, miss.
Not you again.
I just wanted to apologise for earlier. I deserved that slap. I'm sorry for my behaviour. The drink gets a hold of me sometimes.
Ups.
Let's start again, shall we?
My name is Arthur Tillett.
Oh.
Thomasina Bateman.
Okay, never mind. I thought
What brings
he
you
was
to
Shoulder
Bewley
for a second.
anyway?
I'm here to meet someone, but he has not arrived.
His loss, if you ask me.
Perhaps you know
Don't
the gentleman.
start
Mr. Leonard Shoulder.
again.
Oh, I know Mr. Shoulder all right. If I may be so bold as to say, he's a bit long in the tooth for you.
The relationship is not what you're implying. I've never met him. In fact, I know very little about him at all.
Get me an ale and I'll tell you all about the old sod.
I don't think you need alcohol. Ugh. We're gonna do the must I really buy you a drink?
Must I really buy you a drink for this information?
Please,
Are you sure it's wise to have another?
please. Don't you want to hear about old Leonard Shoulder?
You drive a hard bargain, Mr. Tillett. As you wish.
I
Thank
don't
you
think we
very
should be
much,
buying
Miss
this man alcohol. Oh.
I have only 2 pence left. My assistant Kenneth is...
Okay, well,
A tankard of your finest ale, Mr. Kemp.
There we are. 2 pence, please.
that's
Thank you.
all of my money.
This was the last of my money, but Kenneth will be here tomorrow with more funds.
You know what that means? I don't have enough for chicken nuggets.
Here you are, Arthur.
Thanking you. Oh, that hits the spot, that does, lass.
Sir, you have
Now
a
then.
problem.
Old Len. Leonard Shoulder.
Bro! Man cannot hold his alcohol at all.
Mr. Tillett? Oh, for
See y'all,
heaven's
I
sake.
see y'all saying
The
that
man
this
is
was
in a
expensive,
drunken
but
stupor.
apparently that was some good shit. Late 1800s, I think. I don't know that we've been given
Mr.
like a specific
Tillett?
date.
He's not dead, just very drunk. I would still like to hear what he has to say about Mr. Shoulder.
I mean, that was a shilling less than the room that I'm renting for the night. Like,
After one drink too many, Arthur Tillett has passed out.
I think you could just say it's one
Mr.
drink.
Stanley Kemp. He has the serious and worn-out facial expression of a man who deals with drunkards on a nightly basis. I can't think of anything else to talk about right now.
Okay.
Mr. Tillett? He's not dead, just very drunk. I would still like to hear what he has to say about Mr. Shoulder.
Can I pour some water on him? Do it. Do it. Don't look at me, Thomasina. Thank you.
Oh, what the hell were that for?
You passed out, Mr. Tillett.
Oh, sorry, lass. Well, hold on another minute. I'm making for a piss.
Oh my god!
This man is unbelievable.
Honestly, though. We're just gonna stand here? Hey, so I think Leonard is dead. Leonard, more like
It feels like an hour has passed.
dead nerd.
Perhaps I should go in there and check on him.
12 pence equals 1 shilling. 20 shillings equals 1 pound. So, like, so not that expensive?
Miss Bateman?
Yeah.
My apologies. The ladies are closed due to faulty plumbing.
Oh,
You'll have
heck.
to use the gents.
Lovely.
Okay.
Mr. Tillett?
Is he
I
dead?
would rather not get any closer. The smell of urine is nauseating.
No, that's fair.
Mr. Tillett? Mr. Tillett, are you in there?
No.
Mr. Tillett, are you in there?
I think I will be down here. Cover up the text a little more or with less regularity. Cat!
Well, you're not Mr. Tillett.
Unless...
I'd rather not touch it. The thing stinks to high heaven.
Okay, just because it's a piss cat doesn't mean you can't pet the cat. Pet the piss cat, you coward!
The water looks highly questionable. I ought to keep my hands out of it.
2 pence is extremely huge in Rhine. We don't know, because time. Time is weird.
The mangy thing is fast asleep.
Pet the cat! Pet the cat! You gotta pet
door opens
the
a
piss
crack,
cat! Pet
but
the
it
cat!
appears to be blocked from the other side.
Okay, so where the fuck did Tillet go?
I think I can hear someone moving around. Mr. Tillett? Arthur, are you out there? Judging from the draft coming from below, this door must lead outside. I should investigate further.
I'm not convinced the man did not turn into a cat. Mr. Tillet is actually Piss Cat.
Excuse me, sir.
Who's that? Should we be following the man?
Pearly white gent's glove. It's certainly unlike anything Mr. Tillett was wearing. Seems rather out of place here. Peculiar.
Some people do just turn into cats. It's true. Let me move this.
Someone has wedged the door shut. Mr. Tillett. Why would he have done that?
The art in this game is really pretty.
Did
I'm
Mr.
a
Tillett
fan.
leave, then block the door behind him? Something strange is going on here.
Yeah, the strange thing is you not
Who was
petting
that
Piss
old
Cat.
chap I saw
Petting
outside
Piss
the
Cat.
alley? He headed eastward. Maybe I could catch up with him and ask him if he saw Mr. Tillett.
Hard to say. Petting Piss Cat.
I suspect the barrels are empty. Otherwise, the locals would be rolling them into their cellars. I
Okay,
could
well,
tether a horse here if I had one.
yeah, pet the piss cat. Do it. Pet the cat.
Sir?
I don't think the man wants to talk to us. But yeah, no, the art in this is really pretty. I like it.
The old man has disappeared into the darkness. I'd best turn back to the inn.
Pixel art in general is just always, like, really impressive.
I don't wish to go knocking door to door.
Do it! You coward! Piss off the locals. Piss off the locals and pet the piss cat. Come on! Last call.
Last orders.
I should get some sleep. Finding the missing men of Bewley shall have to wait for tomorrow. Kenneth will be arriving tomorrow at midday. I should get some sleep.
Yeah, which is why I clicked on the door. I mean, can I actually do anything else?
Good evening, sir.
Also, I'm sorry, I'm so sniffly right now.
A lovely place to warm oneself.
Cyril has left. Did this picture change?
I
Hold
don't
up.
want to take the painting with me. A colourful work depicting a bashful knight. It is signed N. Hamley.
I just thought it was more colorful
Kenneth
than
will be arriving tomorrow.
I remembered.
Yes, I must get some sleep. I shall track down Mr. Shoulder tomorrow.
Miss Bateman,
Yes?
off to bed?
Yes. I'm afraid Mr. Shoulder's let me down.
The rotter. Perhaps he will make himself known tomorrow.
I should hope so. This is turning into a waste of my time.
Ah, don't mind the locals, miss. It's just that we don't get a lot of visitors in Bewley.
Quite.
They mean well, believe me.
Sure, Mr. Kemp.
Please, call me Stanley.
Okay, Stanley.
Good night, Stanley.
Sleep well, Miss Bateman.
What a sweet guy. I like Stanley. I hope he doesn't turn out to be a murderer. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep moving myself around constantly. I'm sorry. Excuse? Cat! Piss cat! Piss cat is mad that we did not pet it. And you know what? Look at the stompy baby. That's what it feels like at night when Farley demands pets. You just roll over and he's there just staring at you. And it's like, can we not? It's true, we should have pet the cat. You want to avoid cat breaking into your room? Well, I mean, it's not gonna fix it. Cat's still gonna break into your room.
Horrid dreams.
But just gotta pet that cat. Alright. Is our friend here yet?
Bolted from the inside, just as I left it last night.
That doesn't mean anything. Cats
As
are...
I suspected. I must have dreamt of
ridiculous.
that wretched-looking cat.
It's a
I
fine
must say
cat!
I'm relieved. Right then. Let's see if I can track down the elusive Leonard Shoulder. I'm rather anxious to get to this Barrow. I also wonder what happened to Mr. Tillett.
Probably drowned in a weir or something. I don't know.
Good morning, Miss Bateman.
Good day, Stanley.
There's a reason cat burglars are called cat burglars, I assume. I mean, that tracks.
Did you
That sounds
sleep
right
well,
to me.
Miss Bateman?
I should tell him about the
Not
cat.
really. I have the rather queer recollection of a cat entering my room last night.
A cat, you say?
Yes, an odd-looking grey one. I must have been dreaming, as I locked the door and windows before I went to sleep. I saw a similar cat in the lavatories while searching for Mr. Tillett.
Ah, Herbert. Oh, he's a harmless thing. He comes in now and then searching for
His
scraps.
name is Herbert?
Indeed. Seeing him in the lavatories must have conjured up the strange dream.
The mind is capable of manifesting
I love
frightful
Herbert.
things, Miss Bateman. I'm happy to
He's
report the rain of
perfect.
yesterday has lifted. It's a clear morning outside.
Oh my god.
Crisp. I've prepared a room for your assistant. What time will he be arriving today?
His train will get in around midday. Kenneth will also be bringing my excavation equipment.
Oh, aye. What does that entail?
Picks, shovels, buckets, lighting and such. He usually packs it in a large crate. Come to think of it, I'll need somewhere to store it.
You're welcome to use the alley behind the inn for any such bulky items.
Is it safe to do such a thing?
Is it safe to do such a thing?
I can assure you the local folk are not thieves, Miss Bateman.
That's not
I
what
just...
Now, say nothing more of it.
Thank you, Stanley.
I'll let you get on with your day.
I'll be back with my assistant when he arrives.
Alright.
Miss Bateman,
Yes?
I've something I wish to get off my chest, as it were. I've been tossing and turning all night, Miss Bateman. I feel rotten, I really do.
What on earth are you talking about?
As you know, I like to run an honest establishment. And well, I have not been honest with you, lass. I do know of Hobbs Barrow.
You do?
I
I knew it!
Many here do. There are stories tied to that place, you know. If I've learned anything in this life, it's that some stones are best left unturned.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna turn him.
Old Leonard Shoulder is someone to be wary of too. I can't tell you what to do, lass, but you'd best avoid him.
Okay, this is good information. I'm gonna take just a very quick break. I have to blow my nose, and I don't have any tissues in here. So I will be right back. Okay? Okay. Is an 8 out of 10. If you would like to see the boy, if you would like to see the full boy, here he is. Hyper realistic. What is that? Hyper realistic Waluigi. He's so much worse than I could have ever imagined. It's because I don't whisper. Sorry, you're like right next to me. We're gonna... Don't open your eyes, it's gonna be an ASMR game now, okay? I don't open my eyes.
Open your eyes. Look at me.
I do my best to ignore the voice.
Why won't you look at me?
You know what this music is perfect? Devo. I am stupid cat. I don't know how to groom. Don't bite me, please. Okay. I mean, it was just a little guy. Apparently I don't have any tissues anywhere in my apartment, so I have been relegated to toilet paper. My nose is gonna be very sad after this, but hey, it's fine. At least I'll be slightly less snotty. Alright, let's ask about Hobbs Barrow.
Why lie to me about Hobbs Barrow?
I know, lass, I know. I feel dreadful.
But why? What are these stories you speak of?
I really can't tell you more. If you insist on visiting that place, you'll have to seek out Mr. Shoulder. He brought you here. He should be the one to tell you.
I must say, Mr. Kemp, this is all quite puzzling. I've never let local superstitions stop me in the past. I pride myself on being a woman of logic and reason. I've no time to waste on such matters.
As I say, seek out Mr. Shoulder. He can tell you more.
You know, I've just decided right now that we're just not gonna do a face cam, I think, for this game. Because my stupid face keeps getting in the way. There's no good place for me to put the camera. And I don't think my face is adding anything to this time around. So we'll just do it this way. How about that? Alright. Mr. Shoulder.
Why must I be wary of Mr. Shoulder?
The man has a certain reputation.
For what?
You've seen it already. Were he here to meet you last night?
No.
Precisely. A man not to be trusted.
I like Stanley. Even if he did lie to me. Where's Hobbs Barrow?
Where is Hobbs
I
Barrow?
know he's not gonna tell me,
I
but...
don't know. I say that on my mother's grave, Miss Bateman.
I now find that hard to believe.
The moors are vast, lass. I'd tend not to go wandering out there. A grown man could lose himself and not be seen again.
He did feel bad about lying, and that's fair. But he still lied. And then he was truthful about lying, but he still lied. Stanley and I are still tight, is the thing. We're still BFFs. Love Stanley. I'm a Stanley stan. Let's go.
Where does Mr. Shoulder live?
I can't say for sure. As I think I told you last night, he's a quiet man and keeps to himself. He only comes in here to collect his post. Leads me to believe he lives a fair distance away. Certainly not in the village itself.
Might someone around Bewley be able to help me find him?
You could ask around. As I say, lass, Bewley folk mean well. Don't forget that.
I shall return later.
Good day to you, lass.
Alright, so... what I'm hearing... Farley, stop. What I'm hearing is Farley licking himself. What I'm hearing is that we need to not be direct with the folks of Bewley regarding asking about Hobbs Barrow. And that we might have to be...
It seems I may be fighting a battle
discreet.
against some sort of local superstition. Is there a single barrow in England that doesn't have some ghastly tale attached to it? Hogwash. All of it.
Hogwash.
I've a few hours until Kenneth arrives. I should use this time to find Mr. Shoulder.
I don't know that we're gonna find him in that amount of time, but hey, who's this guy?
Hello. My name is Thomasina, and you are?
Now then, that's none of your concern, love.
Oh, hold on just a second. I have to take this phone call. Carol Jackson's a stupid ghost. Everyone is panting because we're out of breath. I hate Carol Jackson. I bet you she's gone. No. I am in your computer now. Hello. I'm gonna get all up in those wires. Speaking of which, which? I think I found a clue. We show the photograph to Centra. Oh, she just glitched out a little bit there. Did you see that?
This lady here will join us for dinner. That's all.
For what? Take the goddamn mask off when you talk to me. You know.
I do. I 100% remember her moving like this.
Back in the van so you don't fucking lose it again.
Okay.
It's awful.
Okay.
I don't like it. I
was just saying, she's here for dinner.
Good. Dinner. I'm starved.
Aww. Yeah, no, this game is really, really cool. I'm super digging it so far. Like I said, the atmosphere, very oppressive, very spooky. Yeah, it's a dance stream now. It's great. Oh, don't look at me. No. Quick, someone translate that. No! No! You bitch! It was purple. I'm back. Sorry, like I said, it's been a lot today. Everything's been happening. But we are good. Let's ask this random man who says that his name is none of our business, about himself.
What do you do around here?
Hey up, you're not scared of sticking your neb in. I look after the churchyard. Dig the graves.
Tell me about the church.
What can you tell me about the church?
Aye, it's a church.
Quite.
Helpful. Wonderful. Thank you. Tell me about Leonard.
Do you know a man named Leonard Shoulder?
I don't know out about no Leonard Shoulder.
Hobbs Barrow?
What can you tell me about Hobbs Barrow?
Not to be found digging around in those things.
You know of local barrows, then?
Don't concern yourself.
Here I was being like, we need to be discreet about asking about Hobbs Barrow, and then I immediately just start asking about Hobbs Barrow.
What can you tell me about Bewley?
Not much around here, love. Not worth mentioning to you, like.
I see. Goodbye.
Ta-ra.
Alright. What's in the alley?
I suspect the barrels are in. The window is well out of reach.
For now.
I see no sign of life within.
We went that way last time. Is there anything else in town? Child?
Hello?
Yes?
Probably should have talked to the mother first.
Goodbye, miss.
Good day.
Or
Hello,
this
miss.
woman. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to assume that you were this child's parent, but I assume you are watching them.
My name is Thomasina. What's yours?
Betty.
Nice to meet you, Betty.
My god, somebody who's actually telling me something about themselves.
What are you up to?
My brother is practicing his sword fighting technique.
Brother!
I'm to watch him until he tires himself out.
I'm tireless.
This time last month it were all about his teaspoon collection. This month it's swords.
Do you know Leonard?
Do you know a man named Leonard Shoulder?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, how about Hobbs Barrow?
What do you know of Hobbs Barrow?
Our parents don't like us talking to strangers, miss.
So you know of it?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Goodbye.
Bye, miss.
Okay,
Hello?
now I'll talk to this child.
Yes?
My name is Thomasina. What's yours?
Douglas?
It's a
Douglas?
pleasure to meet you, Douglas.
You want to tell me about your
That's
sword?
a great sword technique you have.
Thanks, miss. Mr. Crozier's gonna make me a real one when I turn 12. I'm preparing myself to fight the lantern worm.
The Lambton worm, you say?
What is the Lambton worm?
It's gonna come back and get us all. John Lambton thought he killed it at the River Ware, but my father told me it still lives. We must all be prepared.
The lantern worm isn't real, Douglas. Father just told you that to get you out of his hair.
Not true. I saw it slithering out by the beck. Like a giant eel it were. I ran home so fast I thought I would fly.
Sorry, miss. My brother has a vivid imagination.
Children often do at his age.
No, I'm
Keep
here about
training.
this.
You will all thank me when I thrust my sword deep into its fat belly.
Douglas, this lady doesn't want to hear your nonsense.
Incorrect. I want to hear all of it. Also, facts. Douglas the Tireless. We love this boy. Can you tell me about Bewley,
Do you
Douglas?
like living in Bewley?
Yeah, I do. Are you from the city?
I'm from a long way away.
You must have come on the train. I love watching watching all the steam puff up into the sky.
Have you been on the train yourself?
No, miss. Our parents don't have the money for train tickets. Father says we have all we need here in Bewley.
Perhaps this nice lady would like to take you away with her on the train.
Are you trying
No,
to
I need
give
to
me this
stay
child?
and protect Bewley from the lantern worm.
Do you know Leonard
Do you know a man called Leonard Shoulder?
That's a funny name.
You know about Hob's
Have
Barrow?
you heard of Hob's Barrow?
What's that?
A local burial mound.
Our parents don't let us wander far from the village.
What's
Because
a
of the
burial
lantern worm.
mound?
Don't you mind about that, Douglas?
Who's Mr. Crozier?
Who's Mr. Crozier?
He's a blacksmith. His forge is just over there on the other side of the square.
Don't you think 12 years of age is a little young for a real sword?
I'll be a master swordsman by then.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, miss.
Okay, well... That certainly was information, I suppose. Sir.
Good day.
Yes?
Mr. Crozier, I presume.
Aye, George Crozier, at your service.
My name is Thomasina.
Aye, can I help you?
Are you a Bewley
Wanna tell me
native,
about
Mr.
stuff?
Crozier?
Aye, born and bred. That's where my father's forge before mine.
How is business faring?
I do an honest trade. There'll always be horses needing shoes and farmers needing tools. You let me know if you need out made or mended. I'll do you a fair price.
Thank you, Mr. Crozier.
Rad. Do you know Leonard?
Do you know a man by the name of Leonard Shoulder?
Oh, aye. Old Leonard.
Have you seen him recently?
No, not recently.
Do you know where he lives?
Why all these questions, lass?
I need to speak with him. He invited me to Bewley.
Oh, he'll turn up. I've seen him in the plough and furrow from time to time.
But do you know where he lives? I need to find him.
I believe he lives somewhere out on the moors. Can't tell you out more than that.
Okay, so...
Thank you, Mr. Crozier.
So nothing that actually helps. I mean, I appreciate him, like, telling me what he knows, but, like, that doesn't really give us a good idea of what's going on.
Do you know of a local landmark named Hob's Barrow?
There's a fair many barrows found out on the moors, lass. Too many to put a name to. Not a soul in Bewley pays them any mind.
Is Shoulder even alive still? I doubt it. Genuinely, I'm assuming he's dead. I know we're assuming he didn't show up, but what if something happened to him? Yeah, no, I'm like 85% certain the man is dead.
Bewley?
We don't get many visitors here, outside of market days. But there's plenty of work for the village blacksmith. Where are you from, then?
I arrived yesterday on the train from London, by way of Derby.
Oh, aye. I've heard about London.
What have you heard?
Plenty of factories there.
Yes, indeed. The city is always changing and moving forward.
Too busy for me, though, lass. I prefer a quieter pace. Aye.
Market days.
When do market days run in Bewley?
Once or twice a month. The next one is tomorrow.
How delightful.
Unless your vice is cabbages, there'll be nought to interest a young lady.
I don't mind a cabbage.
Then you're in
Love
luck.
a cabbage.
Thanks for your time.
Aye. Speak to you later.
Alright, you know what? This man, George, pretty alright.
It's Mr. Crozier's forge.
What's over here?
A humble dwelling.
Actually, what's this way? Wait, I meant to actually, wait. Wait! What's over here? I know the train station is over this way. But like, oh! Well, we found Arthur. Only Douglas and Mr. Crozier, who are in any way preparing for the return of the Lambton Worm. It's true. They're ready. They're ready to go. But also we found
Mr.
Arthur.
Tillett, where did you go last night?
Have we met?
Last night at the Plough and Furrow.
Barrow.
Oh, Miss Bateman. I were blind drunk last night and woke up with a stinking headache.
You still smell like a brewery.
Sorry.
You went to use the lavatory and never came back, Mr. Tillett. I searched everywhere for you.
He fell in.
I think I remember you bought me a drink. Then it's all a blur. I woke up in my bed this morning with my wife sour at me for waking her at some ungodly hour.
What about last
night?
What were you going to tell me about Leonard?
What were you going to tell me
Hi,
about
Harvey.
Leonard Shoulder?
Who?
Leonard
This
Shoulder.
fucking
You told me
man.
you knew him. And promised to tell me more if I bought you a drink. Which I did. So what were you going to tell me?
I don't really know the old bugger.
But you said you did.
Oh, aye. No, I know naught about him. No, naught about Leonard Shoulder.
I don't believe you.
You're hiding something, Mr. Tillett.
Oh,
I don't
100%
believe
he's
you.
a liar.
I say a lot of things when I've got the drink in me. I probably just wanted you to buy me an ale.
A likely story.
Look, what would I gain from lying to you? I just wanted another drink.
Even if that's the case, it doesn't explain your disappearance.
I don't remember out.
About last night.
Really don't remember where you went last
You really
night?
don't remember where you went last night?
As I say, it's all a blur. I remember needing a piss. Then nothing. Well, you
That's
must
because
have
piss
missed
is
me when
power.
I came out.
I did not. I even went to the gents' toilets to find you.
Oh, aye. A sight for sore eyes.
It was. I checked everywhere, and you were nowhere to be found. The back door leading to the alleyway was blocked from the outside.
Oh, aye.
Yes. You must have
Oh,
exited through
aye.
that door, Mr. Tillett.
But you just said it were blocked.
There must be an explanation.
I'm telling you. Man
My
turned into a
mind
cat.
is, drawn a blank.
Why was the door blocked? Did you block it?
I told you I don't remember. I've naught to say 'cause I remember naught.
I'm just gonna constantly berate this man.
I'm assuming you don't know where Mr. Shoulder lives then.
Sorry, Miss Bateman. I don't know naught about Leonard Shoulder.
Bullshit.
How's your headache faring?
It feels like a steam engine is driving full pelt in a circle around me skull.
Be sure to drink plenty of water, Mr. Tillett.
Aye. I'll survive.
Hey, railway station.
So, you work here?
Aye. Bewley Station Master at your service.
The bad
Would you like to buy a ticket?
master.
Not just yet, thank you. I understand that some of the locals are not too happy about this new station.
Aye. I'd go as far as saying the whole village.
How long has the station been open for?
About 3 months. We're on the Midland Railway line. This employment's been a saviour for me. If I weren't stood here, I'd be drinking my life away at the pub right now.
I think you're
It's
doing that
worth
anyway.
The occasional withering look from Cyril and the rest of them.
That would also explain why the tracks were so, so unused.
What does a station master do?
A bit of this and a bit of that. I don't wish to bore you with such things.
As you wish.
My responsibilities here keep me on the straight and narrow, I'll tell you that much. A sense of duty can do wonders for a lost soul.
Indeed. This must be a rather lonesome post to occupy.
Trains pass through here more regularly than you might think, lass.
Farewell for now.
Ta-ra.
Hurrah. Okay. Well, at least we found him and he's not dead. Cat! Okay, maybe he's not that cat. But I'm still not convinced he didn't turn into a cat. Okay, so what's over here? Ooh. What's all this then?
I've no
Halt.
desire to go rooting about in there.
Hand in hole. Hand in hole.
No doubt home to many a woodland creature.
What's over here?
I shall see you
Oh.
later this evening, gents. Well, I say. Greetings, my dear.
Back
Hello,
off.
sir.
A pause on your beauty. for I shall see you again soon.
Wait!
Hi, Fruity. Okay, well,
Some
fuck that
nerve.
guy.
Lady, you're blushing.
I most certainly am not.
That's just the thing with Victorian men. They're all just
Sorry,
intensely
lass,
creepy.
no way through here today.
Says who?
Says who?
Lord Panswick. Now get
What a
back before you
fucking
find
name.
yourself under a falling tree.
I'll introduce myself.
My name is Thomasina Bateman.
Oh, aye? You're not from round here, Thomasina Bateman.
No, just visiting.
Tell me about yourself.
What is your name, sir?
Horace.
Are you in charge here?
I am indeed.
Who's that arrogant man?
Tell me, who was that arrogant man here just now?
Just someone passing by.
It sounded like you knew him better than that.
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's none of your business.
That's gotta be Lord Panswick.
What are you doing here?
What does it look like I'm doing? We're chopping down trees.
There is no need to be sarcastic.
We're employed by Lord Panswick. He's ordered us to gather logs from his woods. That's what we're doing.
Okay.
These are his woods.
Aye, his lordship owns most of the land round Beowley.
Tell me about
Who is
Panswick.
Lord Panswick?
Our governor.
He's the governor of the whole town.
All right, Owen, back to work now.
He lives in Bewley.
Aye, not far away, but his lordship doesn't like questions or visitors. Now please leave us to our work.
Well, it's a shame for him because I got both. Not a rival.
Do you know a man named Leonard Shoulder?
No, I don't. Can you let me get back to my work now?
No. Can you tell me about Hobbs Barrow?
Have you heard of a place called Hobbs Barrow?
Can't say I have.
Okay, well, what do you need these logs for?
Why are you gathering logs for Lord Panswick?
By heck, you ask a lot of questions. If you must know, his lordship is repairing an old ruin on his land. We need the timber for the restoration work.
How intriguing.
A ruin, you say? Could it be akin to a barrow?
What type of ruin is Lord Panswick restoring?
An old chapel.
I should rather like
Well,
to see
never
it.
mind.
Not possible. His lordship does not welcome visitors to
Well,
his estate.
I mean,
Thanks for your time.
We'll
maybe
be
they're
done
just
by
calling a
tomorrow
barrow a
morning.
chapel.
Come back then if you want to explore the woods.
The men
Is that
look
you?
like they've spent many a long day exposed to the harsh moorland weather.
a chapel, you say? Constructed in what period? That's
I'll
what
let
I'm
him get on with his work.
saying. That's what I'm saying, Tom.
I'll let him get on with his work.
Okay, so none of these boys want to talk to me. My god, the way she zoomed out of there. I mean, I would say he, like, talked a lot at us, but he did not tell us much information. But now we know a man named Panswick exists, and he sounds like an asshole. What's this? Oh, is this the church?
It's locked.
It's locked. Oh, who are you?
Hello. Good day. Would you like to buy one of these cakes, pet?
I would love to, but I have no money. What kind of cakes do you have?
What kind of cakes do you have?
I have some lovely Bakewell puddings. The sweetest marriage of almond and jam. I can tell you're not from around here, because if you were, you would know about my Bakewell puddings.
Well, now I know about them.
Quite famous.
Alas, I'm not carrying any money with me.
That's unfortunate, pet. I'm sorry. I can't give them away for free.
I didn't
The
expect
money
you to,
goes
ma'am.
to the church, you see, and one cannot shirk one's duty to the church.
I understand.
Hard disagree, but, you know.
My
I'll
name
introduce
is
myself.
Thomasina. What's yours?
Mrs. de Plancy.
A pleasure to meet you, Mrs. de
Deplancy.
Plancy.
Likewise, pet.
Ma'am.
Tell me about yourself, Mrs. de Plancy.
About me? What would you possibly want to know about me? I've been attending St. Edmund's Church my whole life. I always want to help where I can, so I sell my baked goods, and all the proceeds go to its upkeep. This place means so much to me.
Well, I'm glad you found something in it. Can you tell me about the church?
What can you tell me about St. Edmund's Church?
Isn't it the finest building? It's been standing here since the 12th century. The box pews in the nave are very fine and date back to the 17th century. The door is open if you'd like to worship.
Thank you, Mrs. Duplancy.
Hey, to all my friends in chat who are from not America, what's it like having a history that extends past like 300 years? Not that America doesn't have a longer history than that, but as far as, you know, white people history goes, that's about it. Also, I like this implication that Mrs. Duplancy here has done a murder on Leonard. I'd believe it.
Do you know a local man called Leonard Shoulder?
Yes, I know Leonard. What business do you have with
I
him?
knew Leonard.
It's a long story, but I'm trying to find where he lives.
I'm afraid I don't know, dear. Father Roach has access to the parish register. He might be able to help you.
Father Roach? Oh, what can you tell me
What
about
can
him?
you tell me about Father Roach?
He is a lovely man and an exemplary servant of the Lord. He's been the vicar of St. Edmund's for many years.
Where can I find him?
Where can I find Father Roach?
At this time of day, he'll be taking his exercise in Herne Wood, to the west of the village.
Thank you. I'll go find him.
Be
I was
sure
there.
to listen out for his merry whistling. Such a jolly man.
I would ask about the cakes, but I'm pretty sure that just like would let me purchase them, and I don't have any money, so let's talk about Hobbs Barrow.
Hobbs Barrow?
Hobbs what?
Hobbs Barrow, a local burial mound.
The only place of burial I know about and care for is in this very churchyard.
Okay, well, do you know Lord
What
Penswick?
do you know about Lord Panswick?
Wretched man. They say he is restoring a chapel near his manor. But for whom and to what god, I ask?
Is he a man of faith?
I've barely seen him set foot in St. Edmund's. It doesn't stop him from acting as our God-given ruler. Stay away from him, pet. Don't get yourself tangled up in local affairs.
I don't plan on
certainly
it.
don't intend to.
Oh, Thomasina and me are on the same page. It's wild having, like, a history that doesn't just begin something like, we arrived and brought civilization with us. Huzzah! No, I mean, y'all kind of did the... had your history going on, and then it was... And then we arrived elsewhere and brought civilization and huzzah. But, you know. It's I don't know, like, I think about that from time to time, that whole, like... We don't... Again, outside of, like... America as it is established now, or anything like that, it's like our history is just so fucking short and boring and awful and horrible and terrible. And like, I mean, most countries' histories not exactly great. Well, let's be fair that way. But it's also like, I don't know. Like, I just think about the fact that like y'all have like all these wild, really old buildings that have just been there for like hundreds of years. That's wild to me.
Thank you for your time.
Lord be with you.
And we're over here just getting rid of a lot of shit. Can I have this trowel?
Excuse me, do you think anyone would mind if I borrowed this trowel?
You help yourself, dear. Father Roach won't mind lending it. Just be sure to put it back when you're finished.
Of course, thank you.
It is more blessed to give than to receive.
Church in your home village looks like it was like this one. It was founded in 1120. That shit is so wild! I love that! But I want that. I want to experience that. I want to have all that old shit just lying around and being around. Having old stuff around is pretty rad. That's what I'm saying! Oh my goodness. Sorry. I like, it's wild. It's wild to me. It's cool.
This appears to be a recently dug, unmarked grave.
Well, hey.
I may be a barrow digger, but I am no grave robber.
Well... Yes, please, Emmy! Please! I'm super here for this. Love to go stomp around. Okay with you. Are we just sitting here? Sorry, this is really pretty. Just gonna take a screenshot real fast. I just got an achievement called Rest. Sometimes all we need to do is sit and think. Lovely. It's really pretty. Like I said, like I really like pixel art in general. Like it's just like wildly impressive to me. A
The
cairn,
locals
you
might
say?
be alarmed if I dismantle their cairn.
Well,
I've
I
seen
just wanna
cairns like
look at
this
it.
all over England, quite common. The moors continue for miles in this direction. I don't wish to lose my way.
But yeah, it's just a really pretty game. Okay. Wait, actually, no, wait, no, go back! I'm glad I can, like, go... I want to read this plaque. What does it say?
Margaret's Lookout.
Who's Margaret?
I wonder who Margaret is, or was.
Thomasina, we have to stop having the same thoughts, please.
Margaret's Lookout. I wonder who Margaret is, or was.
I tried the other option. So you can, like, left or right click to determine if you want to, like, interact with it or just, like, look at it. That's why we've been getting lots of different mushrooms. That's a fairy circle.
Poisonous.
Don't.
I'm not sure if these are poisonous or edible.
Don't fuck with that. There are fae about.
The moors
Yeah,
stretch
danger.
into the distance. I don't wish to wander aimlessly.
I like how she's over here being like, "Oh, those mushrooms are probably dangerous and poisonous," and I'm over here being like, "Don't fuck with it. The fae are gonna get you." Ah!
The moors stretch into the distance. I don't wish to wander aimlessly.
Fruity, don't do it! Leave the mushrooms alone! You don't even like mushrooms! Oh my god.
In memory of William Ager. In memory of George Paxton. In memory of Romeo Hegg, dearly missed by his beloved Juliet. In memory of Henry Crozier.
Kinda wish to wander aimlessly. This is the first time on stream I haven't found Thomasina relatable. Honestly? Same.
In memory of Millicent Smith.
Big agree on that.
In memory of Benjamin Garkham.
Look, I would love...
In memory of Mabel Hurst.
To go wander
In
around.
memory of Percival Roach. In memory of Barnaby Tillett. In memory of Peter Black.
Actually, what's up here? Oh, okay. That just goes around in a circle. Okay, she said that, can I go in here, actually? She said that Father Roach was probably
Goodness me,
in...
look at these box pews. I've never seen any as tall as that before. Most unusual architecture, even for the Normans.
She said that it was gonna be in... He was probably in the woods. I love that she's called Thomasina. I love that she talks out loud to herself in view of the public. So relatable. But not wanting to wander aimlessly into the moors? What the heck? What do you mean you don't want to just go wander aimlessly for miles upon miles into the moors?
Maybe I can reunite it with its owner. The flowers have long since dried out. I don't need them.
Beautiful.
I've no time for such things. This must be where the local vicar sacrifices the newborns.
LOL! LOL! Exactly. That's exactly what they do here.
Locked. Locked as well. I think they all might be. The pews are contained within compartments that can be locked. I've seen a similar design in other Norman churches around England, but this is a particularly impressive example. A memorial list of former vicars. They stretch back several hundred years. A memorial list of... They stretch...
Okay. If she starts repeating herself, like, I will just skip through the dialogue. Yeah, I like why. So look, I don't know much about churches, specifically like Catholic, Protestant nonsense. And no, I will not take that back. But like, I like familiar with the idea of a pew. I didn't realize they locked. That seems strange and horrifying. I hear that man whispering. Oh! No, don't do it! Don't do it! Is he okay? No, he is not.
Very sorry. Oh, the shame.
Are you good?
This malaise will not pass. Oh, the nausea. I need your help, young lady.
I am spitting out the Lambton word.
Let the blood from my arm.
Excuse me?
Got me. I beg you.
I think you need to take me out to dinner first. Okay, well, first off, give me your spectacles.
Ouch! The broken lens is extremely sharp.
Yeah, he didn't even say hello!
Perhaps I shouldn't risk soiling this glove until I find its owner.
Well, Lucina, what do you want from me? Can
I don't wish
it?
to look too closely.
Valid.
I'm not going near it. It smells disgusting.
I don't have anything to cut him with.
Are you sure this is the only way, Father?
It's either that or cocaine,
it's
my
the
dear.
only cure for this torturous malady.
Do you want to pick up the spectacles then? Or is she just gonna...
Ouch! The broken lens is
Okay, well I need...
Don't leave. You must help me.
Okay.
The vicar's spectacles lie broken on the forest floor.
Oh my god.
The vicar looks dreadfully ill.
Okay, is there anything that I can interact with?
Are you sure?
I beg, it's the only...
Do you want this?
The trowel's blade is dull and rusted. I need something that will provide a cleaner cut.
Like a broken lens? Oh, I have a handkerchief. Okay. I don't know why, but I thought that was like a mirror or something.
This handkerchief was a gift from my mother. I hope she will understand. This should work.
Cut the man. Use the broken glass with the vicar.
Are you sure you want me to do this?
Yes, it will cure me of my ills.
I shall do as you ask, Father.
Jesus. Oh, old-timey medicine.
Thank the Lord for my spare pair.
Bro
God
just has
bless you.
extra glasses in his
I already
pocket.
feel quite better.
I'm glad, Father.
The rapid healing properties of bloodletting cannot be overstated. I'm Frederick Roach, vicar of St. Edmund's Church.
My
good,
name is
my
Thomasina
dude?
Bateman. It's a pleasure to meet you.
I mean, he's a vicar. Of course he's a weirdo. I'm sorry. This is a this is a slander the church zone. Are you feeling better? Did he eat a weird mushroom or is he just like a weird
Are
guy?
you feeling better?
Yes.
He probably ate a mushroom. You're
Thank you.
probably right.
What ails you, Father Roach?
Mushrooms.
I
Oh!
just ate a rotten berry. That's all.
That's
I
a
like to
lie.
pick blackberries for my supper, you see. They are quite delicious, as long as you mind the bramble. My apologies again. I wish we had met in different circumstances.
Are you from Bewley?
Are you from Bewley originally?
I was born in our very own St. Edmunds. It's quite the story.
Do tell.
My mother was sheltering there as a frightful tempest raged. And lo, did her waters break right there and then in that pew.
One could say that you were born into your role, Father.
Indeed.
Yeah,
when my
X'd
mother
it out.
told me the story as a young boy, I knew that this was my calling.
I've lost a lot of blood. The only treatment is to lose more. I'm telling you, it's either bloodlet, cocaine, or opium. Those are the only treatments to ailments. And or a little amputation here or there. You know. You know.
St. Edmunds is a fine building.
Thank you for saying so. It's hard work keeping her in good shape, but our congregation is always willing to lend a hand in the Lord's name.
What's it like being the vicar
What is it
here?
like being the vicar here?
Every day is a blessing, my child. I have a great love for our parish, and the Lord looks after us.
What about your congregation?
What about your congregation?
Numbers
read those
have
out. She reads them for
fallen
us.
over the years, I must say. But those that remain are faithful and full of his spirit.
Is attendance dwindling because nobody believes anymore, or because nobody moves in and everyone's dying and this village is very tiny and not full of a lot of people? Looking for
I'm
Leonard
looking for
Shoulder.
Mr. Leonard Shoulder.
Oh, yes? Are you a relative?
No, it's a long story, but he invited me to Bewley.
And he didn't tell you his address?
He was to meet me last night at the Plough and Furrow, but he never came.
I see. Well, let me welcome you to Bewley on his behalf.
Thank you, Father.
Do you know where he
Do
lives?
you know where Mr. Shoulder lives?
Let me think. It's been many moons since I've paid him a visit.
Perhaps you could allow me to take a look at the parish register.
No need. I remember it now. A fair hike across the moors.
Could you please give me directions?
I'll take you there myself. It's the least I can do after you aided me so.
Well, that's nice of
Capital.
him.
Thank you.
Just let me know when you're ready to pay
5.
me a visit. I'll
There
be
are 5
resting here
houses.
For the time being.
Can you tell me about
What
Hobbs
do you
Barrow?
know of Hobbs Barrow?
I can't say I've heard of it.
It's supposedly a famous local landmark.
I'm afraid I know nothing about it.
Okay. I like how, like, when he's speaking to me, his eyeballs, like, go halfway up his face. Can you tell me about Bewley?
What can you tell me about Bewley?
It's a quiet town. The railway line,
Like,
which
look
I
at him wiggling his
presume you're
eyes.
alive by, is the only news of note we've had here for years.
I've heard the new station has received a mixed reaction.
I wish
I've
I could
heard
do
many
that with my
debate, it's
face.
true. But my role is not to adjudicate on that matter. I'm very busy in my own work, you see.
That just happened. They're going places. They got places on his face to be. Can you tell me about Lord
What do
Panswick?
you know of Lord Panswick?
Oh, yes. A rather important fellow around here. His vast land holdings give many a steady employment.
I hear he is renovating an old chapel on his land.
Aye, I've heard such reports. He believes this to be a godless land. Something I wholeheartedly disagree with. To which god his chapel will be dedicated to remains a matter of concern.
He's
Why do you
praying
say
to the
that?
mold gods.
Oh, my apologies. Don't listen to my oafish conjecture. Let us move on.
This man is a
Thank you for
gossip.
your time.
Lord be with you.
Okay, so he can take us to Shoulder's place. But before that happens, I do just want to take one more little gander. Mostly because I didn't wander off this way since the previous night. And I would like to see if there's anything new over here.
The road disappears over the horizon. I see nothing but moorland.
Well, I see a couple of houses. Okay, so there's nothing. And I don't think there's anything else that we need to do. I guess we could check the train station real quick. Although I doubt it's like, I don't think it's midday yet, right? She'd probably say something if, what's his name? our assistant Kenneth. If it were time for him to be here, but we will just do a quick little checky check. I don't feel like they would let me leave if there was anything else that we needed to, like, absolutely do before we left, right? Yeah, so let's, go talk to Father Roach, and let's go to Leonard's and find out that he's
I'm
dead.
ready to go to Mr. Shoulder's house.
Excellent. I feel the fresh air will do me well. Follow me.
Alright, sir.
Good morning, Father.
Good morning, Mrs. Duplancy. Mrs. Duplancy, this is Thomasina Bateman.
We've
a
met.
visitor to our parish.
We've already had the pleasure of meeting, Father.
Excellent. Miss Bateman, don't hesitate to try one of Mrs. Duplancy's wonderful cakes.
Yes, I've heard about her famous Bakewell puddings.
I'll be here all day, young lady. But remember, once they're gone, they're gone. Those little whelps have already gobbled up all the gingerbread.
You are doing God's work, Mrs. Duplancy.
He smiles upon us, Father.
Thank you, Father. We've already picked up on Mrs. Duplancy's murderous vibes. I am. The way she looked at us.
Let's
us,
talk
the
of
player.
graves, of worms, and epitaphs.
Sir, you
Make
said you were going to
dust
take me
out
to the man.
paper, and with rainy eyes, write sorrow on the bosom of the earth. Let's choose executors and talk of wills.
Can you just take me to Leonard's?
Right. Which play?
Oh, shit. I should know this. Is that Richard II? I'm gonna be really embarrassed if it's... He just quoted... Well, it was... I was kind of, like, not listening to him because I was annoyed that he wasn't just taking us to Leonard's, but he quoted, some Shakespeare, and it was like, let's talk of graves, of worms, and epitaphs, and I'm pretty sure that's Richard II. It's definitely not Hamlet. I know Hamlet like the back of my hand, and I say that, and I'm gonna be very embarrassed if it turns out that it's Hamlet, and I don't think it's Macbeth either. I'm pretty sure it's Richard II.
Richard II?
Correct. You are
yes!
well read, Miss Bateman. Studying the work of the bard is one of my favorite pastimes.
Sorry, I was kind of a Shakespeare nerd in high school. Hi. That was my special interest back in the day.
Behold, the vast expanse of God's creation. The moors extend as far as the mortal eye can see. Beautiful, is it not?
It's lovely. Moors are beautiful, find them rather desolate. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, I think they're beautiful.
Indeed. The moors are beautiful.
The beauty of God's creation is that it takes so many forms.
Bruh.
How can one take in such a view and not have faith? Some look at these moors and think this a godless land. But I tell you, he is found in all domains. The Lord's work is all about us.
Listen.
Tell me, Miss Bateman, do you believe in God?
Listen. It's cool if that's a thing that you believe in. But don't make it so that other people have to do that too, because that's not how anything works. Tell the truth or lie. I mean, I feel like I'm gonna get a lecture either way. I haven't really, I don't know, like, I've been very truthful with everyone so far. So I lean towards wanting to do that in general. But also, fuck the establishment. No, I'll
I
tell
was
the
brought
truth,
up
whatever.
Anglican. The church was an important part of my early life, Father Roach. But what happened to my father eventually made me question things.
If you don't mind me asking, my child, what happened to your father?
He had an accident when I was very young.
He got cursed by the Fae.
Come along now, Thomasina. Let's get out of the rain.
Do I get to be baby Thomasina?
Remember what I told you, all right? Be a good girl. People are unwell here. They don't want to hear you running about making noise. Understood?
Yes, Mother.
Good. And don't annoy the nurses.
I promise I won't.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Good. Now, let's see your father.
Mummy?
All
Mummy?
right.
Mummy is crying. Daddy is sleeping. Daddy, wake up!
Well, don't yell at him.
Good evening, Mr. Bateman. Hello, little one. You must be Thomasina?
Yes.
My name is Nurse Blaketon. I just need to talk to your mummy for a little bit. I'm sorry to disturb you, Mrs. Bateman. Mrs. Bateman?
Will he ever talk again, Nurse Blaketon?
The doctor is uncertain, Mrs. Bateman. There is the possibility that Mr. Bateman won't regain any movement at all.
Oh, damn.
But we will do our utmost to look after Mr. Bateman here at Kayshurrr, ma'am. He will have a nurse by his side at all times, I can assure you.
What? Hoppa.
What sort of god would allow this fate to befall such a kind and honest man?
I'm sorry to hear this. God moves in mysterious ways, but he loves us all. Come along now.
Thomasina and I, both on the same page here.
Hello.
Oh, bye.
She scampered off in a hurry. Who was that?
Some primitive folk make their home out on the moors.
Oh,
I suggest you keep your wits about you when you are exploring, and don't stray too far from Bewley.
Sorry, that wasn't you at the father,
How much
not...
farther to Mr. Shoulder's house?
Not...
Still quite a walk, I'm afraid.
You understand.
But we'll get to him soon enough. Now
I mean,
then,
I'm not
take a look
entirely
at this.
surprised, but ugh, fuck this guy.
Legend has it that this cairn has stood here for over 1,000 years.
How remarkable.
The Devil's Toe.
I beg your pardon?
Bless you?
That's what it's called. The Devil's Toe.
Oh, I see.
Come now. Onward.
Alright, so Father Roach kinda
We walked
sucks.
and walked across that vast, featureless landscape. All the while, Father Roach was whistling away merrily. Just as I had begun to wonder if we were hopelessly lost, a building emerged from the mist. Mr. Shoulder's cottage.
Jimkins!
Here we are, Miss Bateman. Unless my memory fails me completely, this is Mr. Leonard Shoulder's house.
Thank you for your help, Father Roach.
Now. No need to thank me after your providential assistance today. However, I have something to ask you.
Yes?
Please don't tell Mrs. Duplancy about my little scene in the woods. She will
I'm gonna
only
do it.
fret. The poor dear woman has enough on her mind as it is.
I shan't mention it.
Thank you. You'd better see if Mr. Shoulder is in.
Alright, well, I want to look at the chickens first.
Don't encourage them.
A sweet little hen, plump and well groomed.
Yeah, we're gonna tell Mrs. DeFlancy that this lad out here
I've no
seeing
desire to
God
lug
in
a
nude
block of
ways,
wood about
huh?
the countryside.
Okay, well...
A carved stone has been affixed to the door. I think it depicts a crescent moon. It's bolted onto the door itself. I can't remove it.
Why are we trying to steal
Father,
it,
what do you make
Thomasina?
of this?
A peculiar adornment. I've not seen any like this in Bewley, though it does remind me of a passage by the bard himself. It is the very error of the moon. She comes nearer earth than she was wont, and makes men mad.
That's Othello, right?
Othello?
Precisely, Miss Bateman. Your knowledge of the bard is presently flawless.
I consider myself to be well-read, Father Roach.
It's
Y'all can't see
delightful
it,
to meet a fellow bookworm,
but I'm
I must
celebrating.
say.
Punch in the air. What did he say? Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Mr. Shoulder? Is Thomasina Bateman here? I'm here in Bewley as discussed.
Maybe try again. His hearing probably isn't the best at his age.
I mean, I think he's dead.
Mr. Shoulder, are you home?
I could look in the window, but I figured I would try to knock just one more
It appears
time.
Mr. Shoulder is not at home.
He did say my knowledge of the bard was rad.
Curses.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Perhaps
thank you,
could
thank
try
you.
the handle.
It's locked.
Alright, let's look in here. What horrible scene can we see?
No sign of life.
None. The window is nice and clean. The dwelling is by no means abandoned.
I said, can you look in the window? Not, you can look in the window. Sorry, let me just, like, flip your words around real quick, Emmy. My bad.
No sign of any movement.
Chimkins?
He looks much too unruly to be picked up. A fearsome-looking beast.
Do you all have, I have a chicken in my
Can't
hands.
hold one, Father Roach.
Put that thing down, would you?
You're
No.
fun.
No, I want to carry the chicken. I just got an achievement for carrying a chicken. Can I pick this one up? I want to carry them around with me.
The trousers feel damp.
For the rest of the game.
Freshly
I want to
hung
carry...
or still wet from last night's
I want to
rain.
carry the chicken with me for the entirety of the game. Oh, glove! Fancy glove!
That glove looks familiar. I wonder if it matches the glove I found behind the plough and furrow.
Probably. Use glove with glove.
The gloves are a pair. Does this mean Mr. Shoulder was in the alley last night? Why didn't he come inside to see me?
Carry a chicken.
Perhaps
Talk
he's
out
gone
loud
for
to
a
yourself.
stroll.
Wander more aimlessly.
Possibly.
I suggest you call back later, my child. I myself must make my way back home. I have some matters to attend to at the church. Shall I accompany you back to Bewley?
More mushrooms to eat? No, I'd like to look around.
No, you go ahead, Father. Thank you.
As you wish. Farewell, Miss Bateman. I hope Mr. Shoulder finds his way to you.
Thank you for your help, Father Roach.
My pleasure. Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Bruh. Enough. I mean, that's...
Romeo and Juliet.
Correct. That I shall say good night till it be morrow. You've proven yourself to be an impeccable scholar of the bard, my child. Lord be with you.
Well, Mr. Shoulder, you've brought me to Bewley, and now you're nowhere to be found. Slightly damp.
Okay, is there...
I've no desire to lug a block of wood about the countryside.
Well, I'm not telling you to
Mr.
do
Shoulder
that. I
has
mean, I guess I
stacked
was
blocks of
technically
wood
telling
neatly
you to do
beneath this
that.
small lean-to.
Check in. Is there anything else I can do?
I've come a long way to meet you, Mr. Shoulder. Please open the door. I'm rather fond of this colour. Perhaps Mr. Shoulder and I share similar taste.
Perhaps.
No sign of any movement.
He's dead, I'm telling you.
No sign of any movement.
Okay. Alright, let's get out of here. Well, can I look at this again?
A carved stone has been affixed to the door. I think it depicts a crescent moon.
Crescent. Sorry. I like the way she says things.
As I trudged back to Bewley across those cold moors, I made a new resolution. I would find Hobbs Barrow myself, with or without Mr. Shoulder.
Hey.
The train! That must be Kenneth.
Oh yeah, I
Go and
forgot
meet
about
him
that
at the
boy.
station.
Game saved. I'm glad it's saving, because I've definitely been forgetting to do that. Like, completely and entirely. Let's go find Kenneth. Hopefully he can give us some money, and then we can get a sweet treat from Mrs. DePlancy. And that would be nice, I think. Train.
Where is Kenneth? He was supposed to wait for me at the station.
Hey, did you see Kenneth?
I'm looking for my assistant, Kenneth.
Oh, aye.
His train has arrived.
Not a single soul disembarked the last train, Miss Bateman.
Oh, shit.
Impossible. Was that not the midday train from London by way of Derby?
Aye, it were. Mr. Price were here, unloaded a few crates.
But no Kenneth.
Not a soul. Hold on. One of them crates had your name on it, Miss Bateman. A great big one it were, with...
A red ribbon.
Aye.
What is Kenneth playing at, sending my equipment but not himself? Curses. Where is my crate now?
Mr. Price took away all the crates on his cart.
Who?
Mr. Price. He's the postmaster.
I trust Postmaster.
Where can I find Mr. Price?
He lives above the storeroom, just north of the plough and furrow. You'll see it. There's a Royal Mail plaque on the wall.
Thank you.
Okay.
Farewell for now.
Ta-ra.
You have fallen asleep on the train and woken up in the rock country. Oh, God. Trains are dangerous. It's Cyril.
Good day to you, Cyril.
How do, lass?
What are you up to, Cyril?
Keeping an eye on that
It was
bleeding
only
railway
Scotland, but
station.
still.
That's what. Thankfully, no one got off the last train.
Really hate that station, don't you?
Oh, I curse Midland Railway for bringing their damn line through Bewley. This is our town, our land. 'Tis no place for outsiders.
So you keep saying.
Anyway, no more trains today. Almost time to celebrate with an ale, I think.
I could do with one myself.
You paying?
No.
Will you tell me about Leonard Shoulder
I
this
found
time?
Mr. Shoulder's house today, but he wasn't home.
Why the bleeding hell should I care, lass?
Buzz?
I'm looking for Hobbs Barrow. Do you know where it is?
Mind your own business, lass.
You really are quite helpful, aren't you?
Ah.
Goodbye.
Ta-ra, lass.
It was the last train as well. The conductor realized, woke you up and very kindly arranged for the last train heading the other way to make an unscheduled stop in this small Scottish town to pick you up. Oh my goodness. Well, that's very glad that they were nice about it, and you weren't just stranded in Scotland for the evening. Oh my gosh. I wish we had, like, a decent
I
rail
don't think anyone is
system.
home. Quite a fine building indeed.
Oh, there's an exit here. Oh, shit.
That must be the postmaster's storeroom.
Hold on. Like, we have trains, but it's like...
There's my crate.
Not a
Kenneth
ton of
always
them.
ties a red ribbon to it.
And it's really
I
inconvenient
can
to
see
get to
an
any of
envelope
them.
tucked behind the ribbon. Perhaps it can help explain Kenneth's absence. I'm going to have to get in there.
Okay, well, we can go talk to the man. Thomasina, let's go talk to man.
Hello.
Good day. I haven't seen you in Bewley before.
I'm just visiting.
Lovely. It's nice to see a new face. We don't get many visitors. My name's Henry. Henry Long.
Nice to meet you, Henry. Thomasina Bateman.
Wonderful. What a treat.
I mean, I was gonna say y'all's rail system is significantly better than ours. You could go on the trains even if you weren't corn or coal here. Imagine.
You seem in a good mood, Mr. Long.
It's just lovely to see a new face. Where are you from, Miss Bateman?
Can't confirm you were neither corn nor coal. Delightful.
Originally a small town on the outskirts of Derby, Mr. Long, though I currently reside in London.
London? I've never met anyone from London. How very exciting. Have you lived there a long time?
This
It's
man
been
is
quite a few
so
years now, yes.
I've heard
earnest.
that the air there is so heavy with smoke, it makes it hard to breathe. Is that true?
Some days.
Oh, you must miss the fresh northern air. Well, you've got that in Bewley. No factories out here. Such things are a blight on his creation.
Oh
I
God,
born
we're
in
one
this
of these
very
people.
home I
Okay.
stand in front of. Bewley is in my blood. Why would I ever want to leave? Especially now I can meet new folk thanks to the railway line.
Listen. I've lived in a tiny town. Not quite this tiny, but tiny. And it was definitely different than, like, you know, being in a village and stuff like that. But, like, I don't understand this. I don't understand that mindset. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just a me thing. But, like, that whole, like, oh, this is it. This is for me. And maybe that's also just, like, a cultural thing. I don't know, but... And I know that this game takes place in like, you know, older times. Way back when. More people were God-fearing then. But also, like, maybe don't be quite so much of a freak about it.
I'm
Anyway.
looking for Mr. Price, the
I
postmaster.
like this game. I say all
Mr.
this.
Price,
I do like
my
this.
lovely neighbour. I'm afraid you've just missed him.
Curses.
I saw him wheeling a large crate into his storeroom just there.
It's my crate.
Oh,
I
you're
can
not
see it
Mr.
through the
Price.
window. I really need it.
Sorry, Miss Bateman, but he locked it up before he left.
You know where he went?
Where did Mr. Price go?
I don't know. The man were in a hurry. I know he has family in Bakewell.
That's miles away. Did he leave by foot?
No, by horse. He must be a few miles down the road by now.
Curses.
When will he be back?
When will Mr. Price be back?
He didn't say. Could be tonight, could be a few days.
How infuriating.
I told him I'd keep watch of his storeroom, and I'm a man of my word, Miss Bateman. I shall not budge from this spot.
I mean, you could probably move a little bit. Do you know about Leonard?
Do you know a man named Leonard Shoulder?
Aye, funny old fellow. I hear he lives way out on the moors somewhere.
Have you seen him recently?
No, not for a long while now that you mention it. Why do you ask?
It's
He's
a long
fucking
story, but I
dead,
was
y'all.
to meet him in Bewley. He invited me here.
Well, I must thank him when I see him for inviting such an enchanting young woman.
You flatter me, Mr. Long.
Have you heard about Hobbs
I'm looking
Barrow?
for Hobbs Barrow.
One of those old burial hills.
Yes. Do you know where it is?
Believe it or not, I haven't set foot on the moors since I were a child.
Why is that?
I've got all I need right here in Bewley. and we're all truly blessed with the railway station, which brings us lovely new faces.
He's giving the greater good to me right now.
Your opinion of the railway station differs widely from your fellow townsfolk, Mr. Long. I've not met anyone particularly keen on it.
That railway line is the start of a new era for Bewley. Mark my words. There's much to protect here, but we need new blood. I hope that some of you visitors will actually stay here permanently.
Why is that?
He's a
So
fucking
I have
murderer.
new friends
This
to talk to.
man is killing people. This is a
Some people
serial
here
killer
don't
we're
want any
talking
new
to.
friends.
Y'all.
Barnaby, the miserable old sod, is the worst offender.
I bet Cyril's actually a cool dude and knows about all the murders and is trying to scare away all of the new people so they don't get fucking ritual sacrificed. They have to win the Village of the Year competition. I don't care. I don't care. The greater good. Sorry.
I've had the pleasure of meeting Cyril. He really dislikes the railway station.
Absolutely miserable he is. I've tried to convince him many times that the station will help Bewley. He just doesn't understand.
I met him last night in the ploughed furrow.
Aye, the scene of our many debates. Blimey. I could go for an ale right now, actually.
He's giving, God, the fucking head cop from Hot Fuzz. Big bushy beard.
Can I buy you a drink?
That guy.
Really?
Not the
No.
man with the bushy
Wait,
beard, but the man who
do you
says
think
big
Mr. Kemp
bushy
will
beard.
let me open a tab?
Perhaps. You could always ask him. I shouldn't leave anyway. Mr. Price is relying on me to keep watch of his storeroom.
Goodbye.
Don't be a stranger.
No, I'm definitely going to be because you are going to do a murder on me.
Royal Mail, Postmaster's Residence. This must be the local post office.
Alright, this man was a lot. Like, at least he was nice, but, like, I know for a fact he's already, like, plotting my murder. Stanley, help! Stanley, we have a problem.
I'm sorry to ask this, Mr. Kemp, but could I please open a tab?
Still not in your purse?
I'm afraid not. My assistant hasn't arrived as planned, so I find myself in a bind. He must have put the money in my crate, which is currently being held in Mr. Price's storeroom.
Well, as you know, I run an honest establishment here, and I do trust you.
Aww.
So yes, I'll open an account for you, to be settled
Thank
at
you,
the end of your stay.
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Kemp.
Now then, I'll be needing something of value as a deposit.
I thought you said you trusted me.
Aye, it's not personal, lass. One can never be too cautious.
No, this is valid. This is fair and valid.
Goodbye.
See you soon.
Hold on, something of value. Do you want this silver necklace that's not mine?
Will you accept this silver cross pendant as a deposit?
Can I take a closer look at it? Aye, silver. That'll do.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp.
I don't believe that actually worked. I thought he was gonna look at it and be like, I recognize this as Mrs. Duplancy's. Do we want a drink? No, not right now. Thank
Mr.
you,
Kemp.
though.
As you were.
Right, thank you. I stole it from Richard. I 100% thought he was gonna, like, look at it and be like, oh, I recognize this. Like, get mad at me. I didn't have anything else valuable on me, though. Oh, you're a grave
Hello.
digger. Wait, I knew that. You know
What can you
Panswick?
tell me about Lord Panswick?
Naught to say, except don't be sniffing around his lordship's manor. You'll end up with a round of shot in you.
I beg your pardon?
Jesus.
You heard me. Just mind your own business around here.
Okay. Jesus.
I really must find Hobbs Barrow.
What did I tell you last time? Naught to be found digging around in those things.
Goodbye.
Ta-ra.
Alright. I don't know what to do. Betty, do you have anything new to say?
Hello, miss.
Lord
What do you
Panswick.
know about Lord Panswick?
Not a lot. I know he's in charge around here.
Does he come to the village often?
Not really. He has a manor out on the moors.
Have you ever been there?
Heavens, no. Villagers aren't allowed there.
Why not?
Dunno. It's just the way it is.
They're doing sacrifices out
Are you
there.
sure you know nothing of Hobbs Barrow? I really must find it.
I'm sure.
Goodbye.
Bye, miss.
Right. What do we have? We have a trowel.
A fine white glove, gents style. I found it in the alleyway behind the plough and furrow. The trusty trowel, the barrow digger's best friend. This one has seen better days. There is a single match remaining inside.
That's my room key and the letter that we got from Shoulder. Okay.
Good day.
Crozier.
Yes?
Crozier?
What can you tell me of Lord Panswick?
His lordship commands much respect around here, lass. Keeps me busy with work. Why do you ask?
Just curious.
Are
you sure you don't know where Hobbs Barrow is?
Sorry, lass.
Thanks for your time.
Aye. Speak to you later.
Right. I like I like Mr. Crozier. He's
This
very
must belong
nice.
to someone. I should leave it alone.
I don't know that there's much else that I can do.
Good day to you, Cyril.
How do, lass?
What do you make of Henry Long?
An idiot who thinks that station's a good idea. Can you imagine? Strangers pouring into Bewley. Turns the stomach, that does.
Maybe he has a point. You could travel.
Bah, you're an outsider.
Bah.
I'd expect you to have such a bad opinion. But Henry, he's a Bewley lad. We've had the odd barney or two in the pub over it all.
I can imagine.
Phone
Can
for
I
him.
buy you a drink, Cyril?
Now,
Yes.
go on then, lass.
Follow me.
Put it on my tab.
So then he turns around and says, "Why is a dog like a tree?" And I says, "I don't know." And he says, "Because they both lose their bark once they're dead."
Very droll, Cyril. Well, it's been a pleasure, but I must be off.
Aye, lass. Ta for the drink. You're not too bad for an outsider.
I'm pretty rad. Okay. I know that's gonna add money to my tab, but I feel like winning Cyril over probably a good thing.
It's Mr. Stanley. He has the serious...
Yeah. Can we go to bed?
I've too much to do today to waste time sleeping.
Okay. Nope, fair enough.
I've stored my case in there. A box within a box.
He's usually good about prompting us, like, when it's time to go to sleep or, like, when there's a specific action we have to do. I don't think that was exactly it, but it was worth a shot. Do you think we... Wait, nope, didn't mean to go here. Do you think we could convince Mrs. DePlancy to give us a cake? Even though we have no money? Do you think she'd be okay with that?
Hello.
Good day.
Cakes!
Your cakes look delicious.
I can assure you they are. You'll not find better in the entire county.
Oh, okay. Father Roach's help.
Father Roach asked
I'm
me not
gonna
to
talk
discuss
about
that with
it.
Mrs. DePlancy.
No, fuck him.
Father Roach seems rather under the weather, don't you think?
Father Roach? The man is as fit as a lad half his age. What makes you say that?
I found him in the woods in a state of considerable distress.
Oh my! This is very worrying. I must check on him later. I had no idea.
Wait, do you think that's gonna get... Okay, so Tom, you're right. There is no way she'd sooner murder someone than give out a free sample. However, what if, by telling her about Father Roach's health, she'll leave the table unattended, and then we can maybe sneak a cake?
Why did you call Lord Panswick wretched?
He hides in that manner of his and cares not for his people. I've heard stories whispered in the pews, you know.
What kind of stories?
That he shoots people on sight. Anyone that strays onto Panswick Manor.
Good grief.
Yet he will walk into the plough and furrow and buy ale for all and be hailed as our protector. I answer to God and God alone. Forgive me, pet. I shouldn't get so worked up.
Not at all.
No, do it.
I appreciate your honesty, Mrs. Duplancy.
Get worked up.
Are you sure you don't know what Hobbs Barrow is?
Excuse me.
Hobbs what?
Never mind. Thank you for your time.
Lord be with you.
Okay. Can we go in here? Is, the father back? I answer to God, and God alone is the most murderous thing she said yet. My God. Listen, that woman, she's done some shit.
This must be where the local vicar sacrifices the newborns. I can admire the craftsmanship from afar. Stained glass depictions of various biblical scenes. It's not my specialist area.
Not really. Okay. What do we need to do? Can I go in here?
It's locked.
I mean, it's starting to get... Excuse me. Oh! Hello.
Good day, little one. What's your name?
Wally took Myrtle.
Pardon?
He took her and ran off. I hate him.
Is Myrtle one of your dolls?
Yes, my favourite. Mummy
Oh,
made
no.
her for me. She's so beautiful. Wally is the worst brother in the whole world.
Where is he?
I'm sorry to hear that. What is your name, little one?
Jane.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Jane. My name is Thomasina. This is a lovely little beck.
It's where we get our water, miss. It's good for drinking and cleaning.
Dolls?
Your dolls look lovely, Jane.
Thank you, miss. I love them very much. Today was their birthday.
Myrtle?
Why did your brother take Myrtle away?
He's just jealous because Daddy is letting me come with him to the market tomorrow. Wally thinks I'm Daddy's favourite, so he took Myrtle from me. What if he rips her to tatters? What if he feeds her to Mr. Bryden's goat?
Don't worry, Jane. I'm sure he wouldn't do such a thing. Where did your brother go?
I don't know. Home, maybe. But I have to wait here for Myrtle's friends to dry out.
Do you know Leonard?
Do you know an
Probably
old
doesn't.
man
She's a
called
child.
Leonard Shoulder?
No, miss.
Hobbs Barrow?
Have you heard of a place called Hobbs Barrow?
I have, yes.
You have?
We aren't supposed to talk about it.
Why not?
Would you like to go there?
Yes, I would very much like to.
I'll tell you where it is if you find Myrtle for me.
You will?
Yes! But
Dang,
don't tell
okay.
anyone about it or I'll be told off.
I promise.
Please
Thanks, kid.
find Myrtle first. I miss her.
I will.
We'll do it. Where's home?
Where do you live?
Our home is on the other side of the village, miss. Maybe Wally went back there. Or maybe he's left her out on the moors. Poor Myrtle. I'm going to kick him so hard.
Do it.
Goodbye.
Bye, miss.
What's this shrub?
The delicate flowers smell rather sweet. Sweet little flowers.
Can I take them?
The delicate...
Okay, no. But I will keep in mind that it's here. Ooh, a fossil.
Hey! Stay away from that! bad luck to touch the Ammon's horn. I'm serious.
I won't touch it.
Fine.
Why do I know that
Remarkable.
name?
A gargantuan fossilized ammonite. This would look fantastic on my mantelpiece. Damp rag dolls have been laid out to dry in the dreary sun. I do enjoy the charm of a babbling beck.
Okay, she said it was on the other side of the village. Is her dad the guy that's like guarding the post office?
There's nothing else.
Douglas, I have a question.
Hello?
Yes?
And I have to sneeze. Excuse me.
What do you know about Lord Panswick?
He gave me some sweets once. My friend says that Lord Panswick has special trees at his manor that grow sweets on their branches. Do you think that's true, miss?
I think that's very unlikely.
Me too.
Are you sure you know nothing of Hobbs Barrow?
That like a wheelbarrow?
Never mind. Goodbye.
Goodbye, miss.
Child knows nothing. Nothing, I tell you.
Hello?
Good day.
You know anything about
Can
the
I buy you a
Pearl?
drink, Henry?
Really?
Really? We can talk more at the inn.
But I told Mr. Price I'd keep watch of his storeroom.
Doors have locks for this very reason.
You're right. One
I
drink
need to
won't
keep in
take
mind
long.
that
I shall take
when
you up on your offer, Miss Bateman.
Plow and Furrow shows
Let us
up,
make
it's
our
us
way.
giving people a drink, and I probably need to not do that, as willy-nilly as I am accidentally doing.
To think, if that station hadn't been built, we would never have met. Blessed be the Midland Railway.
Idiot!
Oh, shit!
That station is the worst decision this village has ever made!
I'm sorry I've caused problems for Stanley.
Cyril Farnaby. A miserable man with
Child Gage is the
miserable
future
ideas.
slayer of the lamp didn't
I
work,
will
you're right.
change your mind, even if it kills me.
He don't know much, though. He knows how to kill a Lambton worm, though. Stanley, I'm really sorry that they're gonna be going at it over here. Oh god, look at them! They fighting! I have created a scene. I've done the one of the worst things I could do. I've created a scene. But maybe I can break in now?
Locked, as expected. I need to get inside without attracting too much attention.
How do I do that? This is how the British fight. You silently mouth things at one another while pointing. I mean, you gotta get your point across without
The door
making
is
too
still
much of
locked.
a fuss for others, right? Just stare longingly at it.
A warehouse.
How?
He's
Can I
currently
set it on
debating the
fire?
merits of the railway station at the inn. This
I
house
know.
looks pleasant.
Okay. I'm not entirely sure how to get in there. We'll figure it out, though. Can I knock here?
I
No
don't
one's
think
home.
anyone is home.
Can I go into the cobbler's now?
No one here.
Horrible. Hold on.
There's nothing else.
No, I know. Thomasina, we're just trying to get across the map. That's all.
I don't think anyone is home.
Okay, no one's home.
I can't think of anything else to...
That's fine. Boy! Boy!
Hello there. My name's Thomasina.
Yeah?
What's yours?
Wally?
Wally!
Jane tells me you've taken Myrtle away.
And what if I did?
That's a bit mean, don't you think?
She kicked me! Look at this bruise on my leg!
Oh, jeez. A
That
whole
does look quite
pixel.
bad. Why did she kick you?
Because she's a little goblin. You don't know what she can be like. Besides, Myrtle is gone now. I've given her to the fair folk.
Oh, no. No. Look. Kid, I get it. Your sister kicked you, you're mad at her. Don't go to the fair folk ever for anything.
Who are the fair folk?
Thomasina!
People of the moors. I gave Myrtle to them.
Little people? You don't mean fairies, do you?
We call them fair folk round here.
Wally, there is no such thing as fairies.
It's two, and I gave him a doll.
Oh, God. Well,
do you know a
doll's
man
gone.
called Leonard Shoulder?
Forever.
No.
Where can I find these fair folk?
Follow the tinkle of their tiny bells. I hear them when the wind dies. They dance around their little house.
But where is this little house?
Just listen for the bells. You'll find it.
Yeah, doll's gone.
Don't think about bringing that doll back. That'll just bring bad luck for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, you're done. You're donezo. I have to go tell this little girl that the game can't be finished. I'm sorry. It can't be done. This is it. So thanks everyone for coming to see the excavation of Hobbs Barrow. It's a real
What do you know
shame
about Lord Panswick?
that we couldn't actually excavate Hobbs Barrow.
Have you met him?
No, he lives out on the moors somewhere. But everyone does what he tells them to.
Why's that?
Because he has a lot of money.
So that's the game.
Have you heard of a place called Hobbs Barrow?
No.
Goodbye.
Oh, shit.
The road disappears over...
Okay, I know he said that I could listen for, like, their bells, but, like, genuinely, even setting aside my own issue...
These flowers look pretty.
With the
Someone
Fae.
must take good care of them.
Not particularly willing to piss off the entire village by stealing back,
I have nothing else to ask.
By stealing back a doll that this child has gifted to them. That's just not the done thing. Where was that little girl? I've already forgotten where she... Nope, never mind. I knew exactly where she was.
Have you found Myrtle, miss?
So...
Wally told me he's given Myrtle to the fair folk.
Now I'll never see her again.
Yeah, I'm
There,
sorry.
child, I'll get your doll back, don't worry. Where can I find the fair folk?
Wally says he sees them on the moors, dancing and riding on the backs of birds. But be careful. You don't want to upset the fair folk.
How so?
They'll put a hex on you.
It's
Jane,
true!
I'm quite sure there is no such thing as fair folk.
You
Don't
fool!
Let me say that, miss.
Tell me more
Thomasina,
about the Ammon's
please!
horn.
Daddy said we should never touch it. It will make the god angry.
What god?
Ammon, of
The
course.
god. Little education goes a long way. No, but listen. I'll argue with the adults about this shit because they're adults. But I'm also not gonna come in and then, like, encourage everyone to, like, fuck that shit up. Like, listen. Even if we're leaning into it being folklore, it's a tale for a reason.
How wonderful.
I don't know.
I'll be sure not to touch it. I wouldn't want to anger the gods.
Sensible.
But especially with a
Wally
kid, it's just
told
like,
me
nah.
you kicked him.
Nah.
Is that true?
Wally is a liar. He took Myrtle and ran. He's such a little shit.
Oh, damn!
You shouldn't really kick your brother, even when he does deserve it. Goodbye.
Bye, miss.
I like Jane. Okay, Can we find... I mean, I feel like they want me to find the Fae folk. Oh, it's probably at the circle, huh? Hold on, there was a bird there, and I want to see if I can click on it. JK, it's a different bird this time. Jane is a delight. Absolutely love her. Where was... She is the murderer, though. I mean, I'm leaning into it, too, honestly. But I like how we haven't even come across a body yet, and we're still just being like, nope, they've done it. They did the murder. The murder that definitely happened. The murder that has 100% actually occurred. Okay, it's not this way. It'll be this way, right? That sounds like bells to me.
I'm not sure if these are poisonous or edible. It looks like something has been buried in the middle.
Oh, I hate this.
Thomasina, please stop leaving your toys lying about the place. What happened the last time you left your dolly under the tree?
A fox ate it, madame.
Yes, it did. Fetch it now, won't you? Then I'll fix your supper.
Yes, madame.
Dang.
It's the gateway to the fairy kingdom. Hello, fairies. Hello.
Don't speak to them. Kitties. Sorry. Baby Thomasina is very cute.
There you are, Josephine. I won't let the foxes eat you.
Who's that you have there, little bird?
Josephine. She introduced me to the fairies.
Oh, fairies, you say?
Yes, Daddy.
Do you believe in fairies?
Of course. Do you see those mushrooms over there?
Yes.
That's the gateway to their kingdom. That's where Josephine and I go to talk to the fairies.
Now, listen to me, Thomasina.
Yes?
You're old enough now to hear this. There's no such thing as fairies or talking dolls, my little bird.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, my dear child. I do not wish to upset you. I just want to make sure that you understand the difference between fantasy and reality. Josephine is just a doll, and fairies do not exist.
But
yeah, okay,
Daddy...
Killjoy.
Science is the great antidote to the poison of enthusiasm and superstition. Please always remember that. If you hear anything about fairies or the like again, know that it's hogwash. What is it?
Well, I think you're kind of being a dick, Dad.
Hogwash. Did Wally bury the doll, I wonder?
Don't do it. I know I told you to do it, but don't do it. Well.
This must be Jane's ragdoll.
Why did we stab it?
Perhaps these wriggling worms are the fair folk young Wally was so fearful of.
I like worms. Can I leave something?
How strange. There is a hairpin pierced through the arm. This may come in handy. I'll keep it.
Or
At
consider...
least I shall not return from Bewley empty-handed.
Is there anything that I can offer?
I can't see how that will help me.
You have to give them something, you fool! The Lambton worm is breeding. Poor Douglas is gonna have his work cut out for him. Okay, let's go give Jane her doll back. Actually, before we do that, can I use the hairpin to break into the building with my crate? Hairpin on door?
Kenneth taught me this useful trick. A hairpin is much more than a hair accessory. A few wiggles and this lock should spring right open.
playing this has made me want to play Gabriel Knight, just as a forewarning. I know I've talked about doing that
Snapped
like
the hairpin in the
a
process,
couple of times
but
now,
I managed to unlock the door.
but
Let's
really
open
just
this
wanna play it now.
envelope. There's a note inside.
Miss Bateman, I beg for your forgiveness. A matter of grave urgency has arisen in London, and I cannot join you in Bewley. I've packed your usual equipment, and pray you will find local assistance in my absence. I look forward to seeing you upon your return. Yours faithfully, Kenneth Murdoch.
How very frustrating. I wonder what happened.
Somebody must have
I'd better
died.
get this to the alley before Mr. Long comes back. Moving a fully laden crate through the village square was no easy task. Somehow, no one was there to witness it. But I didn't give up, because I never give up, do I, Mother? I am as stubborn as my father, as you liked to remind me. Wait. Where is my money? It's not in here. Kenneth, you absolute liability of a man. It looks like everything else is in here. Picks, specimen trays, shovels. Oh, my chisel, I'll take that. Ah, my lantern. It feels light. There mustn't be any oil inside. I'll leave the rest in the crate. Stanley assured me things would be safe here.
Well, we should put
No
the lid back
money
on.
and no assistant. This is most inconvenient. Still, I've been in worse situations. I've got a tab at the inn for now. I'll worry about money later. I must find that Barrow and get on with the excavation.
Okay, let's go talk to Jane. And to do. Sorry. didn't realize it was there. No, let's go turn the doll in to Jane. And then I assume we're getting close to like the end of this particular day. And once we are done with this day, then we'll probably call it there for now. Here you go.
I present to you Myrtle.
Myrtle! I missed you so much.
Now, I believe we had a deal.
Hide and seek.
Come back.
Uh-oh.
It's in moments like these I thank myself for not having children. They aren't mine to take.
Okay, fair.
Hey!
Child. Jane. I assume she's taking me where I need to go, is the thing. But she's turned it into a game, so I'm not as mad as I might be normally.
Jane?
Ma'am?
Jane, get out of there. Don't make me come in. Fine.
Can you fit?
Curses. The hole is too small for me to fit through. The lantern is no use without fuel.
Yeah, but
no, that won't achieve anything useful.
I had hope.
I was always happiest with a trowel in my hand, uncovering hidden worlds within the earth itself, clod by clod. That should do it.
These giggles, though. Oh!
Jane! Jane? Jane?
Okay, I do need my lantern. Understood. Where do I get oil? I wonder if Stanley knows. Stanley knows everything. Let's go check in with our good friend Stanley. Actually,
good day.
Kayshurrr,
Yes?
do you have any oil?
I was wondering if you might be able to spare some lantern oil.
I don't have much to spare, lass. Paraffin is as rare as hen's teeth in these parts. How much coin do you have?
None, I'm afraid.
If you're in a bind, I can trade you a small amount.
A trade, you say?
Aye.
What can I trade you for some lantern oil?
Surprise me.
Thanks for your time.
Aye. Speak to you later.
What does he want? You want a trowel?
I don't think Mr. Crow...
How about a chisel?
I don't...
Okay.
I have nothing else.
I'm trying to think. I am gonna ask Stanley, because Stanley knows everything.
I found Mr. Shoulder's home, thanks to the help of Father Roach.
Wonderful. So you've met our vicar then?
Yes, I did. An interesting character.
Indeed. So, did old Leonard apologise for his absence?
Not quite. He wasn't home.
What is that man playing at?
You tell me. I've decided to find Hobbs Barrow without Mr. Shoulder's aid.
Are you sure that's a wise idea, lass?
What other choice do I have? I have a feeling he is avoiding me. Do you know where I can find the Barrow?
No, sorry. I say that on my mother's grave, miss.
Yeah, he's already told us that. Kenneth!
My assistant has not arrived as planned.
Oh, is everything all right?
I'm not entirely sure.
Am I to keep a room for him, just in case?
If you could hold it for one more night, Mr. Kemp.
As you wish.
What can you tell me about Lord Panswick?
A most charming man, Miss Bateman. He looks after us here, a good fellow.
Where does he live?
Panswick Manor, on the moors. No visitors allowed. His lordship likes his privacy.
Goodbye.
He's doing murders.
See you soon.
Okay, so Stanley didn't have the information that I was hoping he had.
I'll leave Cyril and Henry to their grand debate.
Emmy, you know exactly what I'm thinking about in regards to Panswick. I think you know what I'm thinking about.
I can't think of anything else to talk about right now.
A charming lord who likes his privacy, living out in the middle of, away from everyone? He's still in my heart. No, but to be fair, Lord Panswick sounds like an asshole. So different. It's different. Only just, though. Arthur, do you have any information for me? Do you know anything more about Lord Panswick?
What can you tell me about Lord Panswick?
Oh, you've heard of his lordship, then?
Yes. Do you know him?
Aye. He comes into the village from time to time, gives sweets to the children, hires young men to work his land. He's well-liked around here.
He's
I sense some
sketchy
hesitation,
as
Mr.
fuck.
Tillett.
Well, we kind of have an unspoken agreement with his lordship. He looks after us, provided we leave him alone.
I don't follow.
He likes his privacy.
Some people do.
No one is allowed to visit him.
Do you mean to say that he's a bit eccentric?
No.
Don't
I've
act
heard people got
sketchy.
fired at when
Don't act
approaching his
suspicious.
manor
Don't be
uninvited.
suspicious.
Good grief. But is this true?
Well, I won't be the one to find out.
That's the second person to tell us that we will get shot
I'm
if we
looking
go
for
out
Hobbs
there.
Barrow.
Hobbs Barrow.
It's why Leonard Shoulder invited me to Bewley. He thought I might like to excavate it.
Oh, aye. I heard about a Hobbs Barrow somewhere out there. There's some old stories around it.
What stories?
The story
I can't remember.
Mr. Tillett, please. This is important.
I'm awfully sorry, Miss Bateman. I'll try to remember. If he invited you here, then I'm sure...
From the
Mr.
US,
Shoulder
that
will
doesn't
tell you all
scare
about
us
it.
back.
That's if I ever get to meet him.
That's just
I'm
a
sure
hazard of existing.
Farewell for now.
Ta-ra!
Christ. Who else can I talk to?
I don't think anyone is home.
Like, we are fast running out of people to speak with? That's where Jane is. Well, no, Jane's out there, but that's where Jane was. That goes to the church. I don't think anyone's gonna answer the door here.
I don't think anyone is home.
Don't have anything that I can trade with him. This? Do you want this? No. Okay. And his being like, surprise me is not
I have
particularly helpful. Do I have anything in my crate that he would want?
I don't wish to carry around my...
No. Okay. Fuck.
There's nothing else
Wally.
I wish to discuss at the moment.
Never mind. And then if I go over here, she's just gonna be like,
the road
endless expanse. So that's not particularly helpful either. What's to do? Just take a look around the area and see what I can find. What I find out about Mr. Children Hobbs Barrow. That doesn't fuel and I need paraffin in order for it to work. Yes, I know. However, how do we go about doing this?
I don't...
Do you think? I keep clicking here hoping to go to the church, and that's the wrong place. But maybe Mrs. DePlancy has something to say.
There's nothing else I wish to discuss at the moment.
Just kidding. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing in here.
The flowers have long since dried out. I don't want them.
Take them as tinder! Ah.
Unfortunately, I don't...
No, the cakes are not free. They should be. The cakes should be free. But alas, they're not. Where does this go? Right.
What a peculiar name. The Devil's Toe. I can't quite see the resemblance myself. The Devil's Toe.
Okay. Can I
I've
take
no
a
desire
chicken?
to lug up.
Take a chicken. Take a chicken.
You're a sweet little thing, aren't you?
To our good blacksmith friend. Thomasina has seen devil's toes? I mean, they're hooves. Typically.
Mr. Shoulder must have dropped the matching... What was he doing? Rather
There's
rude of
nothing-
him not to come inside and see me.
Yeah, we know Thomasina. Wait. Can I use the chisel to get the thing? Can I use the chisel to get this?
That is not coming off.
Okay, never mind. I got so excited about that. What can I say? I love committing some light vandalism. Can I do anything with this? I mean,
No, that won't... That's
said
a
that
peculiar...
they're probably gonna get mad if I do anything with it, right?
I don't wish to dig...
Okay, well... Ma'am, we're running out of ideas here. Some of that could just be because I'm tired and I need to do an eat. I was hoping that we would finish out this day before calling it, but...
This appears to be a recently dug, unmarked grave.
Okay. Crow? Worm?
You're coming with me, little fellow. I shall name you Kenneth. I've already taken one.
I have a worm friend. This is my worm friend, Kenneth.
The moors stretch into...
Can I?
John Purchase, dearly beloved husband of Florence.
The worms are their money. The bones are their dollars.
There's nothing else.
Can I give the worm?
I don't think anyone really wants to see my...
What do you mean nobody wants to see your worm? I am actually going to try to trade the worm for some paraffin.
I don't think Mr.
Fuck off! I love my worm. Where do we go? What do we do? I haven't been into the bathroom for a while. Is there anything interesting in the bathroom?
I must say, last night has rather put me off using
Never
these
mind.
toilets.
I don't think anyone wants to see my worm is the single most out-of-touch thing Thomasina has said. Facts.
A decorative plate depicting a bear.
Burr.
A decorative plate. This one depicts a dog.
Dog.
A decorative plate depicting an eagle.
Eagle.
A decorative plate. This one depicts a bull.
Bull.
A decorative plate depicting...
Serpent.
A decorative plate. This one...
Cat.
There's nothing else I wish to discuss at the moment.
Oh, I just got an achievement for that.
Good day, sir.
I'd like to settle my tab. Please accept this worm. Why doesn't anyone want to look at my worm?
I have nothing else to ask for the...
He's cool. We love Kenneth here. What am I supposed to do with worms? Help.
The blacksmith is right here.
Fuck, man. What do I do? Oh, actually... I might be able to feed the chickens. That's a good idea. I don't know what that would accomplish. But we do love chimpkins here. How do I get there again? Here, this way. Will the chicken give me like a golden egg or something? That'd be rad. And then I could trade that for some paraffin. And then I can go rescue child from hole. Chimpkin. I'm gonna give it to the...
That would be rather cruel to the poor worm.
Well...
That would be rather cruel to the poor worm.
Okay, well I appreciate the fact that she care about worm. So if not to chicken, can I put worm in pants?
That's a peculiar idea.
You don't like worm in your pants? What do you mean you don't like pant worm? Tom, please don't shame me. Chicken's gotta eat, okay? Use worm to pick lock. It's shoe dirt all over again. Worm. Hold on, but there's a crow.
This is where I dug up Jane's ragdoll. This is where I...
Worms, can you just chat with me for a second, okay? Can we...
I've already taken one. I've already taken one.
That I could, in theory, pick up the other ones has me a little concerned. You're good, Emmy. I'm also just at the point where I'm like, oh. I mean, this is the thing about point and click adventures, right? Is sometimes you just gotta think a little bit out of the box. I haven't talked to the boys in the woods in a while, as I'm thinking about it, because I'm trying to think of like anyone else that we like could speak to, right? And there were those guys that were like chopping logs or whatever. I could see if they have any new information.
I'll let him get on with his...
Hob's
Do
Barrow?
you know where I can find a place called Hob's Barrow?
Never heard of it.
Thanks for your time.
We'll be done by tomorrow morning. Come back then if you want to explore the woods.
Well, I want to explore now.
I can't think of any.
Do you want to look at my worm?
I don't think anyone really wants to see my worm.
Hold on, I have to take a screenshot of that.
I don't think.
Fuck!
I don't think any.
I can't do it! I hit the button and it skips it! They don't like worms. Can I coax Jane out? Wait!
Jane.
Wait! Jane is no longer by the brook, right? And she doesn't want us touching Ammon's horn. However, I have a chisel. What if I were to just take this as mine? And then I could give this to our good friend.
Splendid. I've managed
some
to
oil.
extract it in one piece.
It doesn't feel great, doing this.
An exceptional ammonite fossil.
Just because it's like, I don't know, Jane's gonna know it was me. Give the fossil to the worm! I'm sorry. It's gotta go to the blacksmith, as much as I would love to give
some
it
of your paraffin
to
for this fossilized
worm.
ammonite, Mr. Crozier.
Now then, 'tis a beauty that. It looks familiar. I'll take it off your hands.
Wonderful.
Let me fetch some paraffin from inside.
We're doing all these things that we shouldn't be doing. Like touching weird fossils and digging
There you
up
are.
holes in the middle of fairy circles.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Crozier.
like, we're gonna fucking send this town into like ruin because of it, and I'm not feeling great about it. But you know, it is what it is. Yeah, not familiar at all.
My lantern is
Totally not a
fueled and
defaced local
ready for
landmark.
action.
What do you mean you recognize it? No, you don't. You've never seen it before. We're doing such horrible things. Like, so I think I would have gotten that sooner if I just
Right.
like
Let's put this
weren't
lantern to good use.
into like I'm not into like defacing local landmarks, you know? Look, I'll cause all sorts of chaos and vandalism to all sorts of situations, but not like this.
Jay.
Oh god, stop. I'm sorry. I keep skipping their dialogue. What is that? Oh god, it's a badger.
Goodness me.
Why does it look like a person?
Jane!
Why
Silly.
did-
What are you doing in that smelly old badger's hole?
Why did the badger have a people
You
body?
were in there.
No, I weren't.
Yes, you were.
Not true. I was hiding behind that tree over there. I got bored of waiting for you.
So where can I find Hobbs Barrow?
Go north from the church graveyard, up the hill. You'll see some muddy fields on the horizon. That's Mr. Bryden's farm. Hobbs Barrow is there. Don't tell any grown-ups I told you.
I won't tell
Thanks
anyone.
for getting Myrtle back.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jane. You've been a great help.
Okay. Remember that Thomasina lass who visited? Stole a silver necklace from the church and traded it for booze, then vandalized the local Ammon rock? Listen. We're a terror. I guess we can go to Hobbs Barrow then, right? No, church. Fuck. Didn't Thomasina also bring the fairy's wrath down upon us? Wiggle my microphone out of the way a little bit. Heck. Die, she did that? Maybe not having you know, out-of-towners come
As
in
I
was
trudged
actually a good
through
idea.
the barren moors, with only the odd sheep for company, I reflected upon my visit to Bewley thus far. The enigmatic Mr. Shoulder and his puzzling disappearance. The townsfolk of Bewley, who had made it as difficult as they could for me to find Hobbs Barrow. The suspicion, the wariness in their eyes. Only now I know it was actually fear. In the end, it was the innocence of a child, young Jane, that condemned me to my fate.
Oh, jeez.
I've no desire to wander the furrows.
Do
the
it.
gate opens out into a vast tilled field.
Justified. Listen, these people coming in from the city, I don't know shit.
What do you want?
My name is Thomasina Bateman. Mr. Bryden, I presume.
Aye. What do you want, lass?
I understand Hobbs Barrow is located on your land.
Oh, well, yes. Why do you ask?
I am an antiquarian, Mr. Bryden. I'm writing a volume on the barrows of England.
Oh, I suppose you'll be wanting to dig about it.
If at all possible, Mr. Bryden. I was invited to Bewley by Mr. Leonard Shoulder, who told me such an excavation would be possible.
Leonard Shoulder? Ha! I haven't seen him in years. The last I heard he were on death's door. There's to be no
damn.
more digging there, lass. Not since it went so badly last time.
Okay, hold on. Hold up. I want this man to tell me about himself first. But last time?
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Bryden.
I live here with my wife. And I might be long in tooth, but I can still run this farm without too much help.
Was there a previous excavation of Hobbs Barrow?
Aye. My brother dug it up. Must have been, 25 years ago. You see, whatever he found inside, well, it drove him mad.
Oh?
Aye. I moved back here to look after him. Poor bastard hanged himself not long after.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bryden. That's terrible.
Aye. Time passes, but it were an awful thing.
What did your brother find?
Samuel. Samuel were his name.
Sorry, what did Samuel find in the barrow?
I don't know. But something went wrong. Afterward, he could barely speak. You couldn't make out a word, like.
That must have been hard.
He lost a hand in that excavation too, you know.
Goodness me, how?
I try hard not to speculate on what might have happened, lass. I'd see him disappear into that barrow, dragging timber in with him. You'd hear him hammering away for hours. I offered him help, but he'd have none of it. Soon enough, he blocked the entrance off. To look at it now, you'd never know the thing we dug up. The landers reclaimed it.
Who else was involved in the excavation?
2 others, I believe. Outsiders, perhaps. I can't say for sure. I think they left town pretty swiftly afterwards. I lived in Bakewell at the time. I only moved back here to look after Samuel. I took over the farm when he passed away.
I see. What can you tell me about your farm?
Samuel's fair side. We're a fortunate family. The soil is fertile here. Crops grow without too much trouble. All the other farmers round here raise livestock. Even Lord Panswick. We grow feed for him.
Most fortunate, Mr. Bryden.
Wife?
Is your wife home?
She's out in fields, lass. Pulling weeds. The curse of such fertile soil. 40 years we've been married. I couldn't do it without her, you see.
Aww.
How splendid.
Aye. My wife is a fine woman. Are you married, lass?
No. I've had my fair share of proposals, Mr. Bryden, but that's not the life for me.
Marriage is an important institution. You'll find a man one day.
I manage rather well without one, Mr. Bryden.
Meh.
You haven't seen Mr. Shoulder for some time.
Who needs marriage?
I hear about him now and then, but it must be a good
It
few
works
years
for you.
since
Cool.
I set eyes on him.
He hasn't been here to visit Hobbs Barrow.
Not to my knowledge. I heard he's beset by ailments. Don't leave his home often.
How odd.
Man is fucking
assumed
dead.
He'd spoken to you about my visit.
Not at all.
Can you tell me about Panswick?
What can you tell me of Lord Panswick?
He keeps us going. Most of our crops go to feed his animals.
What is he like?
Oh, I've hardly laid eyes on him. He sends his workers here to pick up the crops.
I see.
Leonard?
You say Mr. Shoulder is at death's door. What exactly ails him?
I'm unsure. It's just what I've heard. I wouldn't want to speculate on matters that are not my business.
Permission to excavate.
Mr. Bryden, may I please have your permission to excavate Hobbs Barrow?
No. Have you not been listening, lass? Samuel found something in there that's best left to rot. No digging here, lass.
Oh, these feel like awful answers. But also, aren't you curious? No,
as you wish.
Good. You've come to your senses.
Listen, I have a feeling that,
perhaps I can at least
we'll still do
see Hobbs Barrow.
which isn't going to be great, but...
I suppose you've come a long way to be here, lass.
All the way from London, Mr. Bryden.
Have you any proof of all you've told me?
Proof?
You wish to see proof of what, Mr. Bryden?
I can't let any Tom, Dick or Harry wander around me fields.
Well, it's a
What
good thing
proof
I'm a
have you of your
Thomasina,
claims?
then.
You wish to see proof of what, Mr. Bryden?
I can't let any... What proof have you of your claims?
Thanks for your time.
Ta-ra now.
I have a worm?
I don't think anyone really wants to see my worm.
I think everyone wants to see your worm. I have a chisel?
I don't wish to give that away.
I have letters.
Here is proof that Mr. Shoulder invited me to Bewley in order to excavate Hobbs
Sorry,
Barrow.
Tom. No worm yet.
Leonard
I
making
tried.
bold promises, I see. Don't make me regret
Look,
this.
I dig in
But
dirt.
yes,
I have
You can
worms.
have a look at it.
Thank you.
Any road. Once you've set your eyes on it, you won't be wanting out to do with it. The place gives one a queer feeling.
So where can I find it?
Through that gate to your left. Just head straight across the top to the field there. After 10 minutes or so, you'll see Barrow. Sit on a hill ahead.
Thank you again, Mr. Bryden. I
It's
really
okay.
do appreciate it.
Kenneth the worm will just remain in our pocket for a while. And we'll be best of friends.
This is not mine to take.
And it's gonna be great, actually. Just go! Gotta pet the goat. Gotta
Easy
pet the
go.
goat. I gotta pet the
I'm
goat.
not fond of goats at the best of times, but this one seems particularly disagreeable.
Thomasina, what do you mean?
What a wild-looking thing.
I love this goat. Goat, do you want to look at my worm?
I should leave the goat alone.
But go. Go, 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 goat, goat, goat. Not Google captions. Goat. Goat, 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 goat. Yeah, goat, 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 goat. Okay. Love goat. But let's go through the field. Love goat. This music, though.
I probably should have brought my umbrella. AR. I haven't a clue what that could be referring to.
Ammon's Rock? Oh.
Hobbs Barrow.
Just a mound.
Indeed, a barrow of a most unusual rectangular form. I've not seen something like this since West Kennet Long Barrow. Yes, this shall make a fine entry for my book. What secrets do you conceal, I wonder? That smell. Earthy and sweet.
Three, 2, 1. You can open your eyes now, Thomasina.
Did you buy me a goat? If it's not a goat, I don't
Come.
care.
Are you ready for your first excavation?
This
Yes,
isn't a
Daddy.
goat.
capital. Make sure you remember everything I've taught you. I have a feeling you might find something special.
How exciting!
Be watching from the steps, my little bird. Good luck.
Thank you, Daddy.
Give me that trowel.
Now I'm ready.
Dirt.
Thomasina, a true archaeologist, uses the tools of her trade.
Aren't hens the tools of my trade? Father?
No treasures here.
Our dad's kind of dumb. I'm sure he's fine, but he's also kind of a spoil sport.
Nothing here.
No, you're doing it wrong! Must use trowel, not hands! Yeah, well, Dad, I want to use my hands.
Treasure!
Look at her!
Daddy, I found the treasure! Look!
Well done, little bird. Your first successful excavation. That urn you're holding is very old and precious. Take good care of it, all right?
I will, Daddy. I promise.
Thanks, Father, for the vessel, I suppose. Okay,
I do have a feeling there is something exceptional to be discovered here. I must gain Mr. Bryden's permission to excavate.
Okay, well... This game has been delightful so far. I'm really liking this.
Darkness falls quickly here. I should make my way back to the inn.
Alright, let's go back to the inn. Let's sleep. Maybe have an encounter with Cat again. And then, we'll call it there, I think. Yeah, we streamed for 3 hours. And I think my headphones are about to get delivered. Oh, Lord! It does look cool. Sorry, I like the fog. I like the look of this game. It's good. Okay. Everyone's here.
Good evening, Mr. Crozier.
Evening. Thanks again for the fossil, lass. 'Tis truly a beauty.
You're most welcome.
It's true, Tom. It's lovely, it's cozy. Mrs. Duplancy is a murderer.
How long have you been collecting fossils?
As
Ever
is
since I was a boy.
James.
The moors look a barren place, but there are plenty of fossils to be found in the rock formations. All manner of creatures to uncover.
Such a playground for a young lad. What's your favourite piece in your collection?
The ammonite you gave me today. The most recent is always the best.
Indeed.
What about you, lass? Do you collect out?
I do. You see, I'm writing a book on the Barrows of England. It shall be called Vestiges of the Antiquities in Rural England. I document all my findings.
But what do you collect?
Pottery, tools and such.
Bones too, no doubt.
No, I leave those in place.
You've got a morbid heart, lass. Fussing about in old graves like that.
We're not dissimilar in that we both take an interest in the remains of the long gone.
I suppose you have a point there.
It's a bad title.
How's
It
the
is a
book
little
coming along, then?
verbose.
Very well, thank you. Though I'm rather keen to begin my chapter on Hobbs Barrow. Thanks for your time.
Aye. Speak to you later.
Good evening, gentlemen.
What are you gonna do about him?
If he thinks he can take her away from here, he's got another thing coming. I am gonna knock his bloody block off. In fact, I can think of a better punishment. Oi, what do you want, lady? Piss off!
You heard the man.
Charming.
Jeez. Also, this guy's. What you?
Good
Don't
evening,
stab
sir.
yourself.
I'll leave you to it.
Jeez. Also, cat.
I don't wish to
Herbert.
wake him up. It's Herbert, the local stray.
Is he a stray or is every location
Hello again,
his home?
Cyril.
You're still here?
Did Mr. Long convince you of the virtues of Bewley Station?
What the hell do you think? Now bugger off and leave me to me drink.
Yeah,
He seems even more wound up than usual.
My headphones have been delivered.
Good evening, Miss Bateman.
Good evening, Stanley. I
Hob
found
Barrow?
Hobbs Barrow.
Oh, remember what I said, Miss Bateman? There are stories connected to that place.
Oh, I remember.
Yes, stories you won't elaborate on, I might add. Don't worry about me, Stanley. I'm quite capable of warding off imagined fiends.
Don't be rude.
I have no doubt, but please leave that place be.
I've come this far, there's no turning back now.
That's precisely what worries me.
Alright,
Goodbye.
well,
See you soon.
no dinks. Only sleep.
Time for bed. Tomorrow I shall convince Mr. Bryden to allow me to begin my excavation.
Miss Bateman,
Yeah?
how are you?
Tired.
Gonna buy you a drink?
I mean... Shouldn't you stop drinking so much?
Shouldn't you stop drinking so much?
You're beginning to sound like my dear wife. Please, Miss Bateman, I feel bad about what happened last night. I'm sorry I can't remember it.
That's all right, Mr. Tillett. Alcohol can do all sorts of damage to one's memory.
I was thinking that maybe if we had another drink tonight, I might remember what happened.
I don't think that's the
I'm
case.
not sure that's logical.
But worth trying?
No!
Oh, Mr. Tillett, if you
No!
insist.
Very good. Take your seat, Miss Bateman.
Okay,
I
I
shall
need to just
return
outright
with the
tell him
goods.
no. I understand.
To Leonard Shoulder.
Wherever he may be. I've been meaning to ask you something.
Yes?
Why did Leonard Shoulder ask you to dig up Hobbs Barrow?
Despite his disappearing act the previous evening, not to mention his questionable sobriety, I decided Mr. Tillett was to be my ally. I spoke again of Mr. Shoulder's letter, his proposed excavation, and my status as an antiquarian and barrow digger. He was fascinated and quite excited at the prospect of meeting the soon-to-be author of a real-life book.
You must find all manner of riches on your digs.
Barrow digging is not all success, Mr. Tillett. Often I'll come across the likeliest of sites steeped in promise. We set to work with shovel and pick and all the other barrow opening paraphernalia you can imagine. Every stone carefully taken down, every shovel full of earth put dutifully through the sieve, and we find nothing. Or you may find a miserable remnant of animal bone or a shard of pottery hardly to be recognised from the peat in which it decayed. Sometimes it's as if some Neolithic humorist prepared an elaborate practical joke for your special benefit.
It still sounds much more exciting than spending your days sitting in England's most remote railway station.
Are you all right, Mr. Tillett?
I've had another argument with Agnes.
Your wife?
Aye. She didn't want me coming to the plough tonight. Truth is, I've been drinking my life away since my mother passed.
Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry for your loss.
You're kind, Miss Bateman. Thank you. It's been a year since the old girl left us. She had a horrible end, wasting away, day by day. Consumption got her. She was naught but bones by the end. I can't get the image out of my mind.
Well, you should probably stop drinking
She
about
meant
it.
everything to me.
I'm so sorry.
I apologise for going on, Miss Bateman. It's not appropriate.
Don't worry, Mr. Tillett. I appreciate your openness.
Used to love going for walks out in the moor, my mother and I. ever since I were a little one. She'd get a tear in her eye as she looked out upon it. She loved this land. I asked Mr. Crozier to build a bench,
Oh,
which
I
we've
just saw your
erected as a
comment.
favourite lookout spot on the moors. Margaret's lookout. we
Oh,
called
is that
it.
her bench?
That's a beautiful tribute.
That's lovely.
If you take a seat there, do keep her in your thoughts, won't you?
Of course, Mr.
Absolutely.
Tillett. I can relate in some manner. My father had an accident when I was very young. He's still alive, but he can neither move nor speak. He spends his entire life bedbound and incapable of communicating or looking after himself in any way.
How dreadful.
He was a barrow digger himself, an antiquarian of some renown. He taught me so much, even though I was so young. I think writing this book is my way of carrying on his work. It helps me reclaim those earlier memories of him, and I visit him often to tell him all about my excavations.
Can he hear you?
I've no idea. The doctors aren't sure. I'd do anything to make him better, Mr. Tillett. I'd do anything to bring him back to the man he was. I am in a state of suspended mourning for a man caught between life and death.
Dreadful. Just dreadful.
We all have our weaknesses. Mine just happens to be my father.
And what of your mother?
A cold woman. We haven't talked in quite some time. I think she blamed me for my father's accident somehow.
You were but a child.
Indeed. She thus saw it fit that a governess should raise me as she spent her life grieving for my father.
Well then, I propose a toast.
A toast to what?
A shared sense of loss.
I'll toast to that, Arthur. Now then, enough of this wallowing.
Let us be merry. Another round.
I really shouldn't.
No,
But
the
I
one
did.
is enough.
And another after
No!
that. And another. The frustrations of my visit to Bewley slipped away with each swill of Stanley's finest ale. We had great fun that night, Mr. Tillett and I. I treasure the memory.
Go on then. Let's hear those pipes.
I mustn't.
Sing the song.
You're incorrigible.
Please. You'll make a sad man happy.
Oh, all right then.
Are we getting a song?
Clasps, celts, and arrowheads I'll try to claw within my clutch. And if a shield I should espy, I'll vow there ne'er was such.
With popish tricks and relics rare, the priests their flocks do gull. In casting out the earth take care. Huzzah! I've found a skull!
What a song. Yeah, it is true. We have found a worm, so this excavation is already a net win. But it is the phase worm. Okay, the game just saved, which I will do an actual save. It's purple. And we will continue this on later, probably this weekend. But for now, let's see what we can do. I'm afraid that the game is going to go away now that I'm not tabbed in. Actually, it's kind of late. I hate not reading out, but I think we are just going to call it here. And yeah, we'll see everyone this weekend. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. This game is delightful. I like this. Yeah, this is a great looking game, as always. I do have, if people are interested in it, you can get that Steam link there in the chat if you want to maybe add it to your wish list, or something. Tell other people about it as well. This has been delightful. I really like this, and I'm excited to play more of it. But yeah, for now, we're gonna head out. Take care of your dang selves, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye, friends.